Bobbiedots, Part 1. The story about AI helpers or something or other.
I know that Moon is in it, I think.
Very briefly.
Or mentioned briefly.
Alright. Even greener grass has weeds. Abe smiled at the memory of his mother's words. Of course, she'd pop into his head now. She always did whenever he was coveting something he didn't have. Abe was definitely coveting. Big time. Emitting a fingernails on chalkboard-like screech, Abe's vinyl desk chair protested as he leaned back farther to get a better view of the Pizzaplex tower. A narrow window near his desk in the Pizzaplex security office revealed just the tiniest sliver of the tower, but the sliver was enough to distract Abe from what he was supposed to be focused on. Abe had a pile of work orders to get through, and he was trying to pay attention to an online leadership class, but he couldn't keep his gaze off the tower outside his window. Sun glinted off the sleek silver steel frame and the shiny glass of the 40-story tower. That's a big apartment complex,
Mm-hmm.
making the building look like the modern palace of a wealthy ruler. Abe could have sworn he could see a glow radiating from the building, but that was probably his imagination. He wanted to live in the Fazplex tower so badly that it was larger than life to him. Abe sighed and tipped his chair upright again. He glanced around the familiar office. Compared to the greener grass of the majestic tower, this room was a weed-infested wasteland of yellowed scrub. The gray-painted walls were decorated, only with the Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex logo and a few curling Freddy Fazbear security posters. A couple of beige bulletin boards hung behind him, covered with a disordered mishmash of notices and reminders. The floor's carpet, a slightly lighter shade of gray than the walls, had a star-patterned motif, but the stars did little to enhance the space. The desks, filing cabinets, and shelving in the office were all black metal. Nothing about the office was comfortable or inviting, but it was, for the moment, the only real home Abe had. Abe returned his attention to the computer screen as he tried to focus on the online lectures word and the work orders he was supposed to be getting through. The image of his mom's sweet, round, freckled face filled his mind. She'd had such a hard life, his mom. She was only 43, and she was in long-term care with degenerative illness. Still, she never complained, even though she'd been married to a man who had made her life miserable because he was always trying to get to the greener grasses, and he taught his two sons to try to get there too. Are you about done for the day, Abe? Abe paused the lecture and looked up at Rodin, his colleague and his closest friend. Dark-skinned and dark-haired, and also ridiculously handsome. Rodin, who was also tall and fit, had a big, white-toothed smile that was a magnet to nearly every woman who saw him. That smile was aimed at Abe now. Abe was able to resist the magnetism. He still found the smile contagious.
Gay.
In spite of...
No, that's like super fucking gay.
Gay! In spite of his wistful mood, he grinned back at his friend even as he shook his own pasty, red-haired, and not any kind of handsome head. I still have a stack of these to get through. Abe tapped the work orders. Rodin's smile dimmed for a nanosecond. Well, we'll be at El Chips. Remember, it's Nell's birthday, right? Abe nodded even though he'd completely forgotten. Sure. Flushing because of the lie, Abe looked down at his work. From the corner of his eye, he watched Rodin fuss with his longish hair. Rodin was not unaware of his good looks, but Abe didn't hold that against him. You haven't come out with the crew in weeks, Rodin said. What's up with that? Abe shook his head. Sorry, I just have a lot. You coming, Rodin? We're waiting! A woman's voice called out. Abe recognized the voice. It belonged to Carol, who worked in the admin offices. He didn't know her well, and he didn't want to. She was loud and pushy, but at least she'd spared him the strain of coming up with a believable story about why he never went out with his friends anymore. Coming! Rodin called back. It gave Abe a long look. Don't work too late. Abe didn't have to reply because Rodin strode out of the office. Four other people who shared the space trailed after him. Abe was now alone in the big, dingy room. Computer screens on the other desk glowed and the overhead fluorescent lights hummed. The electronics were now Abe's only company. Abe tapped his keyboard and started the lecture again. He forced himself to focus on the work orders. I'm wondering if he's homeless.
Well, like, I'm slightly confused because he said that, pardon my voice, that he said that like it's the only place like close to home he knows,
No,
but it's
it's the
like an
only
office
home. The only
only
home
home
he
he
knows.
knows. But it seems to be like an office building owned by Fazbear Entertainment.
It's not really an office building, it's the security office of the Pizzaplex. Like,
So it's like the upstairs of Target, basically. If you've
yeah.
Well, like, I'm not sure if you ever worked at a Target, but the upstairs
Yeah.
of Target is basically all office cubicles. Uh,
Maybe he's the
the
dude who's
highest.
living in the ship in Pirates Cove.
What?
Maybe he's the guy who made that little, like, area he sleeps in Kids Cove.
Maybe he's one of the guys living at the Pizzaplex because there seems to be like a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. Star, star, star. Abe's soft-soled shoes slapped thin beige industrial-grade carpet in a shuffle-tap cadence as he cautiously navigated the back halls of the Pizzaplex. It was nearly midnight. By now, the Pizzaplex was mostly deserted. Just a couple of guards patrolled the complex, and for the most part, they stayed in the public areas. Even so, another guard monitored the video feeds in the main security viewing room. So Abe had to be careful to avoid the cameras positioned throughout the Pizzaplex. Electronic, yeah, he's living at the Plex.
Yeah, this guy is straight up living here, so he is one of the people living in one of the areas.
Electronic eyes were everywhere, even in the employee areas. Not for the first time, Abe shook his head at how bland the back areas of the Pizzaplex were. The public areas of entertainment complex were about color and bright lights, neon pulsed everywhere. Everything was painted some eye-boggling vibrant hue. Back here, though, all was subdued. Varying shades of gray paint on the walls joined the beige carpet in the halls to paint a bland canvas of dull. But at least there were
So
fewer.
he's basically in Fazbear Entertainment's version of the back rooms.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. That is, well, he said back halls, but still.
Well, no, this is why Security Breach is so broken as a game. You can just clip into the back room.
Oh my god, one of these days I need to make an edit where I take one of the clips of me jumping out of bounds and then I just hit the back rooms.
Do it. Do it. It would be so funny.
I'm gonna have to. But at least there were fewer cameras back here. That was what made it possible for Abe to do what he'd been doing for nearly 2 months now. Abe worked his way through the hallway labyrinth, and he finally reached his destination, the trash collection area behind the main dining room. There, in a dark brown and only mildly smelling dumpster, he found what he was looking for. Oh, his dinner.
Dude, don't eat out of the car. I swear you can find like better food and better abandoned pizza in like Chica's room. You don't need to like go to a dumpster.
Abe pushed aside a pile of paper cups and shifted through a stack of half-eaten pizzas, rejecting pieces that had bites taken from them. Abe finally snagged two relatively untouched pieces of sausage and sun-dried tomato pizza from a disposable pizza pan. Pulling out the paper towel he'd plucked from the men's room, he transferred the pizza to the towel, and he scurried down the hall to the dark, unmonitored corner.
Oh my god, this guy is the Rat Man. Like the Rat Man from Portal.
Yes!
He's well, now I'm upset that we don't find like crazy fucking graffiti on the walls of the Pizzaplex like in the back rooms. So fucking cool.
Slinking to the floor, he curled his lip at the sun-dried tomatoes, carefully plucked them off the pizza, and then bit into the first cold slice. The shiny fat in the cold pork sausage had congealed, and its texture wasn't plimpy choosers. At least these were whole pieces of pizza. When Abe had first started working at the Pizzaplex, he loved pizza. Having pizza every day was a perk of the job. Now, not so much. When it was your only choice. Chewing slowly and listening to be sure he remained alone, he tried to remember when he'd had choices about his life. It wasn't that long ago, but it felt like forever. Abe hadn't dreamed of working at the Pizzaplex. He planned to be an entrepreneur, like his dad. Abe's dad hadn't yet 6 years, most of which bordered on shady. But Abe had been sure he'd been able to do better. He figured he had the best of his dad and his mom. Like his dad, he was a big dreamer. He had vision. Unlike his dad, though, Abe cared about people. He didn't just want to make money. He wanted to do good in the world, like his mom. Till she had gotten sick, his mom had been a house cleaner. Her whole adult life, she'd cleaned the houses of people who had the kind of money Abe's dad was always trying and failing to get. But she was okay with that. She said her work made her life better for other people. Abe liked that idea. He wanted to do that too, but he also wanted to be happy and comfortable. Although his parents didn't have the money to put Abe through college, Abe had mad tech skills. He was self-taught, and he was good. And now he was taking the online classes he needed so he could get a promotion to team leader. That promotion could turn his life around. Abe was gnawing on the last of his pizza when he heard a clink about 30 feet away. He quickly looked at his watch. He swallowed the last and he stood, scurrying down the hall. He cut it close. The sound he'd heard was the approach of one of the guards.
Or Chica looking for a snack. That's my headcanon. I just love Glamrock Chica.
She just eats all the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Abe weaved his way through the halls behind the venues and ducked into a tunnel that extended away from Roxy Raceway. He paused and listened. He didn't hear anything. The security guard was taking his time. Although the back hallways and tunnels of the Pizzaplex were dimly lit, this area was relatively bright. The pink and purple neon lights of the miniature raceway spilled out over the metal floor tiles of this behind-the-scenes area. Abe easily worked his way beyond a row of junk cars and a couple of stacks of engine parts. On the other side of the pile of crates, he ducked down and scooted past the neon pink wheels of a motorbike lying on its side. The bike hit a small opening in a mound of race car tires. Abe dropped to his knees and crawled through the opening. After just a few feet of crawling, Abe ended up inside a tent-like enclosure of rubber that sheltered what Abe, for hopefully not much longer, called his bedroom. Abe scooted into his sleeping bag and checked to make sure the cardboard box next to the bag still contained the clothes and toiletries he'd stashed in it. He really didn't need to check. The sleeping bag hadn't been disturbed, so obviously no one had been here. His hidey hole was still secret. Abe stretched out on top of his lumpy sleeping bag and inhaled the familiar sense of rubber and motor oil. He was tired, but he's also wired and tense. These days, he was always tense. That's what being homeless did to a person. He never felt safe and secure, especially if you were camping inside a place like the Pizzaplex. Although Abe's job included servicing many of the animatronics in the Pizzaplex, he wasn't a big fan of the robots. Roxanne Wolf was one of his least favorites, and her raceway
Oh no!
was and her raceway was her lair. Supposedly deactivated by
Wait,
this.
wait. If Roxanne is his least favorite, why did he make the raceway his home base?
I guess because the guards don't check the piles of tires.
I guess so. And to be fair, Roxy's Raceway is always under construction, so
Supposedly deactivated by this time of night. Are you sure about that? Roxy.
Are you sure?
I mean, looks at the game.
Well, I find it funny that the book itself is like, Roxy wasn't any kind of threat. I'm like, threat? What are they doing? Just being around.
I mean, if she was on patrol and found the guy sleeping there, she'd probably report him or kick him out.
Yeah, she probably would.
Roxy probably wasn't any kind of threat. But a couple of weeks ago, as Abe had been headed to his hidey hole, he'd gotten a glimpse of Roxy stalking past one of the doorways to the raceway. It freaked him out. Since then, he'd been even more on edge than usual. So she is roaming around like a patrol.
Do her special eyes actually work?
Apparently not, because she doesn't see this loser.
I'm guessing not. Like, they don't even work in the game. Because Roxy, she's a sprinter, but she lacks stamina. Gregory can simply outrun her, and then she's like, "You won't get away. Where did you go?" And I'm like, "I'm just a few feet ahead of you."
Abe listened for several seconds and assured himself that he was still alone. Satisfied, he pulled out his laptop so he could write his daily email to his mother. Hi, Mom. Did you have a good day today? Did you get the lemon jello you like, or was it the cherry you hate? I'm doing great. Still taking classes. That promotion is going to be mine soon. I'm all settled into my cozy room now, ready for sleep. Wish we were together so we could watch a good movie. I love you. Abe. Abe sighed. He didn't like lying to his mother, so he thought of this as bending the truth. His room was cozy, as he could make it. The only thing that made these emails possible was that his mother's dementia kept her from asking too many questions. Abe closed his laptop and set it aside. He tried to clear his mind so he could go to sleep, but as it often did, his mind meandered down the road that had led him to this rubber-enclosed den. A year before, after several failed online business attempts and several more dead-end jobs, Abe had landed his current position. Although he felt a little bad about lying, he didn't think he was doing anything that terrible. He had, after all, every skill necessary to do the work. He'd just gotten those skills in ways that employers always dismissed as irrelevant. Unfortunately, right after Abe got the job, his mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia. Within weeks, the dementia had taken from Abe's mom what little she had. The bank foreclosed on the house, and his mom ended up in long-term care. By then, Abe's dad was long gone. He had moved across the country to chase after another questionable business deal. Your dad's a piece of shit. When Abe had gotten his job, he felt like he was going places. And then Abe's whole salary had started going towards his mom's care. With the house gone, he ended up here, in a makeshift tire hut, living on discarded pizza and playing hide and seek with security guards every night. Abe closed his eyes, listening hard to make sure nothing, human or not, was nearby. Abe willed his muscles to relax. He filled his inner vision with the image of the Fazplex tower. If Abe could just hang in there a bit longer, he'd be moving into that tower. The lower 20 floors of the tower housed Fazbear corporate offices, but the upper 20 floors were filled with high-tech apartments. The top half of the tower also included common area for parties, state-of-the-art gym, and a rooftop swimming pool and hot tub. All this was reserved for the people who held higher-level positions at the Pizzaplex. These lucky people got to live for free in that tower. Ah! So literally,
Hmm.
the daycare attendant handler would live there, as
I
well as
know,
Bob.
just like I was saying, like in my handler lives AU, that they would relocate him to like Fazbear Entertainment owned apartments, but it's actually real. Also, something I just thought of. Now that they mentioned that the Fazbear Entertainment apartments are like super high tech and everything, I'm just imagining that they have a short story later down the line planned where they move into a Fazbear Entertainment smart house and it like locks them in and the house tries to kill them. You know, typical sci-fi stuff.
I think that's probably what's going to happen in this one, though, but with an
I think
apartment.
that's probably going to happen either in this one or in part two.
When Abe got his promotion, he'd be one of those lucky employees. With that hopeful thought in mind, Abe drifted off to sleep.
It's going to be like that Disney Channel movie about the mom house.
Yeah, I remember which movie that was. I liked that movie, honestly, a lot as a kid. I wished the house would be like that.
Yeah, I wasn't into that movie. I was more into the Disney Channel movie about the guy becoming a mermaid.
Oh, yeah, the 13th year.
Yeah, yeah, that one, that one. Because I watched that one a whole lot more than I did the Mom House. I think I saw the Mom House
Honestly,
one
the
only
practical
once.
effects in, like, that mermaid movie were so amazing.
Oh yeah, they were pretty good.
They still hold up really well.
Yeah. Like in my head as a kid, I kept confusing that movie with the Animorphs books. I thought it was an Animorph book turned movie.
Lol. Star, star, star. Abe hesitated at the double doors leading out into the main lobby of the Pizzaplex. Rubbing his sore lower back, sleeping on the floor was taking its toll on his spine and his joints. He listened. It was early, well before 6 a.m., and the Pizzaplex was hours from opening. The cleaning crew, which worked in the pre-dawn hours of the morning, would be clocking out right about now. And security guards usually took a break about this time. The way was more than likely clear, but Abe was always careful. He couldn't afford to be caught. When nothing but silence met Abe's ears, he gently pushed open one of the doors. He looked right and left down the main walkway of the Pizzaplex. Although all the neon signs and decor were lit up, the black and white checkered walkway was deserted, as Abe knew it would be. This time of morning, the Pizzaplex smelled like bleach and floor polish. The acrid smells bit at Abe's nostrils as he stepped out onto the walkway, sidling sideways so he could stay in a blind spot between the trio of security cameras aimed at this area. Abe had studied the camera positions and watched video feeds for hours when he'd first come up with the idea of living in the Pizzaplex. He'd been relieved to find out that the video coverage wasn't at all optimal. It was easy for him to find.
Me trying me trying to play any FNaF game. I like literally study the camera feeds after the fact because I suck so hard at the games.
It was easy for him to find a variety of convoluted routes between his office, the dining area, his hidey hole, and where he was headed now, one of the large men's restrooms. Abe began his series of zigs and zags. First, he skirted around the huge gold statue of the Pizzaplex lead animatronic, Glamrock Freddy. The massive bear in the top hat held his mic stand and lorded it over the lobby. Once around the statue, Abe darted to one of several palm trees that filled the cavernous space. He moved from tree to tree until he passed a neon sign for Glamrock Gifts. From there, he pressed himself to the wall and sidestepped past the entrance to the Pizzaflex's lounge, the Faz Pad. Finally, he pushed open the door to the restroom. The bleach smells were even stronger in here, and Abe's nose tingled at the door whooshed shut behind him. Hurrying to the nearest sink in a row of white sinks that lined a white tiled wall, Abe pulled out a battered vinyl toiletry kit. He dug out what he needed to get himself ready for work. Abe had gotten ridiculously proficient at taking spit baths. That's what they call a
Ew.
shower-less or bath-less bathing cleansing in the Old West. He liked to think of his daily routine of scrubbing himself with wet, soapy paper towels and then following that with a wet towel rinse seemed a little less pathetic and a little more adventurous. In a matter of minutes, Abe was satisfactorily clean, and he moved on to shaving and brushing his teeth.
You know what? I had a thought.
Hmm?
I know his circumstances and situation and even age isn't really the same, but I can't help but feel like this book is trying to tell us how, like, Gregory lives his life.
Yeah.
Mm. But like the parallels, you know, the book's like doing that.
Yeah. Honestly,
Mhm.
before the events of Security Breach, he was probably living in the Plex and like avoiding the cameras exactly like this, but at least I would say that, except he never had access to the cameras, so I don't know how.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like Gregory had a Faz watch before the
Yeah.
fact. And plus, like, in the game, we never know how he got into Freddy's stomach hatch in the first place.
Yep. He's just
It's just like
confusing.
he's just there, and I'm just like, well, okay.
Freddy was just pregnant the entire time. You didn't know.
Yeah, he was just, was he pregnant on stage, or did he like pass out? And no, Gregory said that he climbed into Freddy's stomach hatch after Freddy passed out, which makes no sense because wouldn't Freddy be causing the commotion if I don't know?
And I think it was after he got locked in his room.
Hmm, maybe.
But still, how did he get into his room is another question. Who
Yeah,
knows?
who knows? Who knows? Gregory is weird. He is very weird, a very weird character, and I feel like we still don't know everything about him.
As he conscientiously, consi- cons- con- conscientiously attended to each of his pearly whites, his teeth were one of his best features, and he had to make sure he didn't need dental work he couldn't afford. Abe stared at his image in the mirror. When he bared his teeth to brush them, his face sometimes looked more like his mom's than his own. His mom had a big smile, not unlike rodents. Abe's smile showed a lot less teeth. It was shy and a little lopsided. Abe had gotten most of his looks from his mom. He inherited his mother's curly auburn red hair. She wore hers shoulder length, but Abe kept his trimmed close to his head, and freckled complexion. He also had her blue eyes and the soft features that made him look about as threatening as a teddy bear. Plush one, not an animatronic one. The only noticeable physical characteristics Abe had gotten from his father were his height and his lanky build. Abe thought about his mom, about how much she liked the yellow painted room in the care center. Her contentment helped him cope with his living situation. As long as he was able to take care of his mom, he would never be homeless in his heart. Just as Abe was tucking away his toiletries and his dop kit, the restroom door flew open. Abe quickly hid the kit behind his back and turned. "Hey, Abe, what are you doing here so early?" A short, balding man wearing a Pizzaplex team leader shirt asked. "Hey, Evan." Abe was conscious of the guilty flush that heated up his cheeks. He pretended nonchalance with a forced chuckle. "That's probably a better question for you. I thought team leaders didn't have to keep such early hours." Abe's deflection worked. Evan, one of the lucky guys who got to live in the Fazbear Tower for free, laughed. "That's true, usually," Evan said. "But I left early yesterday to go catch my kids' hockey game, and I have some catching up to do. I couldn't miss the game. One of our Bobbiedots taught my kid a new move." Evan laughed again. "You should have seen him racing around our apartment with the Bobbiedots cheering him on. They're such a hoot." "Bobbiedots?" Abe asked. Evan had started toward one of the stalls, but he paused. "Oh, didn't you know? The tower's apartments now have holographic systems. Save the heart. Totally looks." He continued on to the stall. "Sorry, I need—" Abe nodded. "Sure." He hurried out. He hurried to the restroom door, shifting his dop kit so Evan wouldn't see it. "Have a great day," Evan called out as Abe left the restroom. Shaken by the close call, Abe retraced his steps to his hidey hole. As he trotted through the lobby, Abe looked up through the glass ceiling overhead. "There is no glass ceiling in the Pizzaplex!"
There is no glass ceiling. We've lost.
The sun was rising, and by tilting his head at just the right angle after he passed Golden Glamrock Freddy, Abe could see the top of the Fazbear Tower. Soon, Abe thought. He's going to have one of those Lux apartments very soon. Soon. 2 hours into his workday, Abe got a call requesting that he report to the administration offices. Roden looked up from his computer screen. "Where are you going?" "Wanted an admin." Roden leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "Uh-oh, what did you screw up?" Abe shook his head. He didn't know. Never been called to admin before. Was he being let go? What would he do if... "Well, you better go," Roden said. "When admin says jump, it's best to jump." Abe waved to Roden and left the office. He tried to tell himself he was worried for no reason. Been getting good performance reviews. That was why he thought he could get the promotion he wanted. The hallway widened, and the beige carpet gave way to plush red. The decor brightened too. No gray walls or cooling posters here. Sunny yellow walls were hung with frame-colored paintings of Freddy Fazbear characters. Abe reached the end of the hall, pushed open the polished carved wood double doors that led to the administration offices. He took a deep breath and stepped through the doors. Beyond the double doors, a young, slightly nerdy receptionist looked up from a long, narrow desk. "Abe Thayer?" Abe nodded. The receptionist pointed down another hallway. "Second door to the left." Abe gave her a nervous smile and went in the direction she indicated. Sweat trickled down his back as he stuck his head through the open second door on the left. A gray-haired woman in a pale pink business suit looked up from a glass-topped desk. "Abe?" Abe nodded. The woman gestured toward one of two red plush chairs. "Sit, sit." Abe sat. The woman came around her desk and sat in the other chair. She held out a hand heavy with gold rings. Abe shook the hand. "I'm Margaret Waterman," the woman said. "The new director of personnel." "Nice to meet you," Abe said. His mouth was so dry, he could barely get the words out. The new director. New directors often made cuts. Was Abe one of those cuts? My predecessor apparently didn't like face-to-face meetings, but I do, Margaret said. So I wanted to call you up here and speak to you directly. Okay. Abe squirmed in his too soft chair. Have I done something wrong? Margaret raised an eyebrow. Not that I know of. On the contrary, I called to tell you that the promotion you applied for is yours. Abe blinked, just to be sure he heard what he thought he'd heard. He replayed the words in his head. Yes, she'd said promotion. Abe leaned forward. I thought the position wouldn't be available until... It opened sooner than we expected. Margaret reached for a folder that lay on her desk. She flipped it open. I see that you haven't yet received one of the certificates needed for the position, but you're enrolled in the requisite class, correct? Abe nodded several times. Excellent. Well, your job performance is superb, so we're willing to give you the promotion conditional on you completing certification within the next month. That be a problem? Abe shook his head. Not at all. I can do that. Margaret stood. Abe managed to stand too, although his legs were so rubbery from shock and relief that he was surprised they held him up. Congratulations, Abe. Margaret offered her hand again. Abe shook it. He grinned. I won't let you down. I'm sure you won't. Margaret escorted Abe to the door of her office. Go ahead back to reception. Peggy will set you up with your Team 2 leader badge and fill you in on the next steps. Thanks, Abe said again. He practically floated out of Margaret's office. For the next hour, Abe was caught up in the next steps, but finally he was able to head to the Fazplex Tower administrative office. Abe didn't so much walk into the big burgundy plush carpeted office as he sailed in. He was so over the moon about getting his promotion that he couldn't stop grinning. The administrative offices of the tower were everything Abe would have expected them to be. In addition to the carpet that felt like it was cuddling his feet. Are you just walking in there barefoot? How would you know that unless you took your shoes off?
I think he's wearing shoes. He's just being metaphorical.
The offices were filled with rich, bright colors, yellow and burgundy. Shiny chrome light fixtures, gleaming dark wood paneling and furniture, and crystal clear, huge windows looking out over the Pizzaplex.
Now this sounds like the back rooms.
But the back room
Maybe
isn't burgundy, it's like a pale, gross yellow.
I don't know. Maybe just any yellow color. I think of the back rooms now. The internet ruined it for me.
A petite blonde who wore a dress that matched the decor was perched on a stool behind a long counter. Can I help you? Jen asked. Hi, Jen. I'm Abe. How do you know her name is Jen?
Maybe she's wearing a name tag, or they told about her in the company emails that you're supposed to talk to Jen.
It would be, yeah, but I'm just confused because it says Jen asked, and we haven't been told who Jen is, so that's why I'm confused a little bit.
I just assume that he's reading her name tag, or he heard about it on like when he would get settled into the apartments to talk to Jen.
I know, but if he was reading her name tag, it would be like Jen, as the name tag her name tag said, asked.
Huh. Well, I don't know. Maybe they just like cut that detail out. I don't know. These books have like a weird thing for like cutting out unnecessary details and then adding more unnecessary details.
Yeah, but sometimes those unnecessary details are actually necessary.
Eh.
Jen flashed him a big smile. Congratulations, Abe. Sorry, I got distracted by my pupper jangling in the background. Congratulations, Abe. She clacked the pink painted nails over the keys on her keyboard. Let's see here. Jen keys and leaned toward her computer screen. There you are. I'll just... Oh. Jen's smile faded. She looked from the screen to Abe and back to the screen again. Oh, what? Jen chewed her lower lip, then twisted her mouth. She lifted her gaze to Abe's. I'm so sorry, but there aren't any apartments available right now. None? But I thought the tower had an apartment for every high-level employee in the Fazbear Entertainment. Mine isn't a new position, so why isn't there an apartment for me? Jen looked at her screen again. Well, there is one apartment empty. Good, okay, so there's no problem. Well, what? Jen looked at her screen again. The problem is, the empty apartment is off limits.
It's a murder apartment.
What does that mean? Jen frowned. It means it can't be assigned. For how long? Jen checked her screen. She made a regretful face. Indefinitely. Some of Abe's fizz went flat, but not all of it. He leaned on the counter. What's wrong in the apartment? Jen shrugged. Doesn't it say? Abe persisted. Jen looked at the screen again. She shook her head. It just says off limits. But why? Jen shrugged again. I'm really sorry, I don't know. She looked up at Abe. She must have seen his frustration because she gave him a sympathetic look and leaned toward him. The apartments in this building are really high tech. My guess would be that there are some glitches in the system in this one. Well, if that's all it is, I can handle it. I'm pretty tech savvy. I'm sure I could fix whatever's wrong. Jen frowned and shook her head. Oh, no, that wouldn't be allowed. If the system says the apartment is off limits, I can't let you move in. No matter what. I really am sorry. But Jen shook her head harder. I'm really, truly sorry, truly. But I have to go by what the computer says.
Let me guess, he's gonna like move in there anyway as a squatter, and then the AI of the apartment is like just gonna kill him or something.
Yeah, he probably is going to break in, but I'm confused as to how there is no open apartment if he's replacing the former leader position. So wouldn't that guy's apartment be opened up?
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. Fazbear Entertainment.
Unless that guy got promoted to a higher position than him. But that's still confusing.
I don't know. Fazbear Entertainment doing some shady shit. Maybe that apartment was the previous guy's position and he died in the apartment. And that's why.
Probably. But I have to go by what the computer says. Abe didn't care what Jen's computer said. Abe had gotten past more insurmountable obstacles than words on a computer screen. His whole upbringing had prepared him for this moment. He'd get the apartment somehow. But how? Jen cleared her throat. Abe blinked. He was so caught up in working through his problem that he'd forgotten she was there. He raised a hand, waved to Jen, and headed back out into the hall. How was he going to get into the apartment? Abe strode down the hall, thinking hard. The main doors of the tower. Abe paused. He turned and rushed back toward the office. Jen, he said as soon as he entered. Someone's at the main door for you. He has a couple dozen roses. He says he needs your signature? Dude.
What? How? Why did you think this would work? What 80s movie are you from? And of course it works. Why not?
Yeah, it probably is going to work, but why would you do that? Because it makes it. You're going to make her disappointed.
Well, he'll make it disappointed, but if it was me, I'd just be suspicious because this guy was like super adamant about his apartment. And it's like, hey, there's a dozen roses outside for you and you need to sign for it. I'd just be like, get out of here. Get out of my apartment.
Jen's eyes lit up. Roses? For me? Jen started around the counter. Her shoulders slumped as she looked around. I'm not supposed to leave the desk. Abe shrugged. I'm not in any hurry. How about I man the desk for you while you go get your flowers?
Why
I'll just.
lie like that? Because you're not even going to stay there for very long. You just could like dash upstairs.
Yeah, but if it's a high tech apartment, he needs the key card, doesn't he?
Yeah, I guess.
I'll just tell anyone who needs help that you'll be right back. Jen raised an eyebrow. You do that for me? Sure. Jen looked around, then she smiled at Abe and hurried around the counter. I'll be quick, I promise. Take your time, Abe said. Please. He willed Jen to walk very slowly. Jen giggled. You're really nice. So I've been told. Abe winked at her. Jen waved and headed for the door. She looked over at Abe once. He waved at her. She waved back. As soon as Jen was out of sight, Abe raced around the counter and looked at her screen. She hadn't logged out. Good. Keeping one eye on the door, Abe pulled the keyboard forward and typed quickly. Thankfully, it just took a few seconds to change the apartment status to active. Once he did that, Abe attempted to insert his name into the tenant spot. The computer, however, wouldn't let him do that. It wouldn't change the name. Landon Prout was apparently superglued into the system. Abe frowned and tapped more keys. Although Landon's name remained stubbornly in place, the screen prompted resync work pass to apartment access card. Abe clicked yes. The screen prompted scan work pass. Abe glanced around and spotted a handheld scanner. He held out his work pass and scanned it. The screen immediately flashed. Work pass apartment access synced, generating security clearance badge and updated room keycard. A 3D printer spit out a new badge and keycard. Abe snatched them up just as the sound of Jen's shuffling footsteps reached down the hallway. Abe rushed to his former place on the other side of the counter and nonchalantly stared out the window. Jen entered the office a second later. The delivery guy didn't wait, she said. She sighed. I missed him. I'm really sorry we don't have an apartment for you. Abe shrugged. I understand. It's okay. He waved at Jen as he left the office. Strutting down the hall back to the building's entrance, Abe looked at his new security badge and keycard. Okay, so the keycard wasn't technically for Abe's apartment. The apartment was off limits to everyone else, and Abe now had the credentials to occupy it. That was all he needed for the moment.
He's gonna die the moment he sets foot in there.
I mean, then this would be a very short story.
Yeah, yeah, and it has a part 2, so he'll probably be, like, psychologically tortured or something, start seeing things like the walls will bleed or something, I don't know.
Nah, that was Steve Snodgrass shtick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, they repeat stories, so who knows?
Star, star, star. Abe had to go to work right after he got his pass. His first day as team leader, and getting used to his new duties kept him occupied all day. Even so, he never stopped thinking about the apartment that waited for him. He couldn't wait to see it. In spite of his eagerness, Abe had to wait until almost midnight before he could head to his new digs. It wouldn't have been safe to retrieve his belongings from his hidey hole until then. It was even later when he finally got off the elevator on the 22nd floor of the tower. From the numbering system, Abe could tell that this unit was on the far end of the long hall. No problem. Privacy would help him pull off his unofficial occupancy of the unit. The same thick carpeting that was in the administrative offices covered the hallway floor. The carpeting was great. It cut down on noise. The walls looked to be soundproof too. The lower walls had polished wood wainscot. Woven burgundy and silver fabric stretched from the wood trim up to the arched gray ceiling. Halfway down the hall, a couple of women exited up an apartment, laughing. Clearly dressed for a party, they came down the hall toward Abe, chattering happily. When they spotted him, they both smiled. Hey, one of the women said. Abe shifted his belongings so the box hid his sleeping bag. He nodded at the woman. They hurried past him, and he watched them go. He wished he could have been friendlier. It might have been fun to get to know the woman who headed out to a party after midnight, but for Abe's charade to work, he was going to have to keep a low profile. The computer might now see Abe as Landon Prout, but he wasn't Landon Prout. He couldn't cause any trouble or draw attention to himself, no matter what. Star, star, star. Why do you need to just jump cut to him like going a few feet?
Yeah.
Abe's key card worked. One click and the door to apartment 2217. That's a lot of apartments. I'm just going to say 2217.
Yeah.
Unlatched. Abe pushed the door open with his foot and stepped inside his new place. The door snapped closed behind him. Abe set his sleeping bag and boxed down the floor. Abe looked around and smiled. The apartment wasn't huge. In one sweeping glance, Abe was able to take it all in, but it was his. A small tile entryway edged up to a central living area that consisted of a sitting area, a kitchen area, and a dining area. The dining area opened up to an office on the left side of the apartment, and the sitting area opened up to a bedroom on the right side of the apartment. From where Abe stood, it looked like the bedroom had an en-suite bathroom. The apartment had high ceilings. Abe guessed they were 12 feet high. Made the apartment look more spacious than it was. The apartment's design contributed to the larger feel as well. None of the rooms in the apartment were completely closed off like normal rooms. One of the bedrooms had walls that went to the ceiling, and the upper half of those walls made of glass. All the other areas in the apartment were separated from one another with short half walls, like partitions in offices. The half walls looked like to be covered with sound dampening fabric. In light gray, they were framed with chrome. Each half was topped by a glass screen, also framed with chrome. The screens extended to about 4 feet above the half walls, and they were topped by 6-inch wide chrome shelves that were etched in with a swirly design. Abe thought they looked cool. The apartment's decor was minimalist in the extreme. Ugh! I hate minimalist. The white walls were bare, save for a large flat-screen TV on the sitting area wall. The granite kitchen countertops were white and bare as well, as were glass top tables. The dining room, coffee table, and end tables were all of similar style. The plush gray tweed furniture had low, square lines, and the chrome light fixtures were starkly modern. Some might have called the space harsh. Yes! But Abe didn't mind it so.
Everything is chrome in the future.
Future! Future! At least it was neat and clean. And it was his. Sort of. Abe took another step. As he did, the nearest glass wall, rising up from the partition at the edge of the sitting area, lit up. A bright-faced holographic girl with what looked like long, hot pink pigtails popped up on what Abe now realized was a see-through computer screen.
Hatsune Miku!
I was literally about to say Hatsune Miku ripoff.
She just dyed her hair pink.
Hi, the girl said. Her voice was sweet and high-pitched, like that of a perky cheerleader. Hi. Abe studied the girl, and he realized she wasn't exactly a girl. Or at least, she wasn't exactly human. She was an AI and was interacting with him. It felt impolite to call out that she was merely digital. You're cute, the girl said. What's your name? I'm 3. Abe didn't answer the girl. 3? He was too busy staring at her. 3 wore a white and gray bell-bottom bodysuit, striped with the same hot pink as her long... This is literally just a Hatsune Miku ripoff!
Like, it's weird because I'm imagining that circus Chica figurine as well, the one with the pink pigtails.
Yeah. The same hot pink as her long pigtails. She had a large heart-shaped face with unnaturally huge, hot pink, cat-like eyes. Her arched brows were the same pink as her hair, as were a large oval spot on her forehead and a large circular circle on top of her head.
I'd watch a VTuber like this.
Her bow-shaped mouth, which was under a small protrusion that must have been her nose, was the same color. Her pigtails, which more resembled streams of pink light than actual hair, were topped by hot pink and gray bows. Don't you talk? 3 asked. I thought all humans talked. We don't talk. We'll have to figure out some kind of sign language or something. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'm sure I can talk, Abe said. You just surprised me is all. 3 giggled. Neon pink of her pigtails danced around her face. You surprised me too. We haven't had any visitors in a while. 3 waved a gray hand. Oh, never mind about that. What do I call you? My name's Abe. Hi, Abe. That's a good name. I like it. 3 suddenly winked out. Abe blinked and looked at the now clear glass. Shaking his head, Abe walked into the kitchen. Abe had been thinking a lot about the apartment all day. He decided the first thing he had to do was check the entire apartment to make sure everything was working okay. If it had been closed off, something was wrong. Maybe he could find whatever that was. Abe left his box by the door and headed into the kitchen. There, he checked all the appliances, the lights, and the garbage disposal. All the amenities worked just fine. Abe was moving into the office area when 3 reappeared on the half wall between the office and the dining room. That's not my area, 3 said. But I make sure it's clean. That's part of what I do. I'm the diet and lifestyle Bobbidot. Abe turned to look at 3, who had struck a cutesy pose and was twirling one of her pigtails. Bobbidot? He repeated. Abe frowned. trying to remember all the animatronic and holographic characters he'd worked on. He didn't remember any Bobbiedots. Bobbiedots are life helpers. We're programmed to serve. 3 curtsied deeply and gave Abe a wide, pink-lipped, aren't I adorable smile. Okay. Abe turned on the computer that sat on the office desk. It seemed to be functioning fine. He rotated back toward the kitchen and headed toward the sitting room. As he went, 3 hopped from glass screen to glass screen, capering after Abe like an eager puppy. I can actually picture that pretty well, like, considering all the glass panels are holographic screens for her. I can imagine she's,
Yeah.
like, following him around, like, on the glass, like his reflection.
Right. It is equal parts cute and terrifying at the same time. I kind of like it.
Abe tried all the light switches and lamps. My job, Three chattered, is to manage the household. I'm in charge of cleaning, getting supplies like your groceries, and I also monitor your health. My health? You know, your blood pressure, heart rate, blood sugar, all that stuff.
Yell at him to take a real shower then.
She probably is going to eventually.
Yeah.
Abe wasn't sure how he felt about that. It seemed intrusive, but was it really any different than one of those wrist devices that did something similar? Abe stepped into the bedroom. He sat on the bed and bounced a bit to make sure it was sturdy. It was. He checked the lights and the alarm clock. Then he went to the bathroom. 3 trailed after him. I keep this room stocked too, she said. All your preferences are stored in my system, and I always make sure you have the best. Abe opened a medicine cabinet above a large square white sink. The cabinet was stocked with everything he'd need. He wouldn't even require his own stuff that he'd retrieved from his hidey hole. Abe poked through the cabinet, picked up a razor and shaving cream, a toothbrush and toothpaste. Reached for a small glass bottle filled with something red. Peered at it and frowned. It was hot sauce. Abe held up the bottle. What's this doing here? He asked 3. 3 flipped their pigtails and struck a new jaunty pose. Abe noticed that the bottom of 3's shoes glimmered as bright pink as her eyes. All supplies are delivered to the holding area for the apartment, and from there, I program the distribution. I had this place here because it's the best mouthwash. Hot sauce is mouthwash?
No, I don't think that's a thing.
Abe grimaced. He cringed at the thought of accidentally pouring hot sauce into his mouth, thinking it was mouthwash. Abe looked at 3, who continued to smile. Abe was beginning to see why the apartment was off limits. The hot sauce was an obvious glitch in 3's programming. It wasn't exactly a red alert glitch, more of a yellow alert. Still. Abe held up the hot sauce and looked at 3. This isn't mouthwash. It's hot sauce. Is stuff like this why the apartment is off limits? 3 shrugged. Maybe. So? Abe set down the hot sauce. He stared at it for several seconds. Then he shrugged too. Well, I guess it's something I can live with. To be honest, I expected something more serious. Abe
Now
headed
I'm just like now I'm just imagining like going into a spice cabinet and there's rat poison in there. It's like she's doing it on purpose.
behind him. 3's mouth opened and then her head split down the middle. The 2 sides fell away, and the rest of her body flickered in and out of view. Sparks split from the electrical socket near the counter. Pausing at the sound of the sparks, Abe turned and looked around. His gaze landed on 3, but it resumed her previous form. She gave him a bright smile.
Well, that's more of a red alert there.
Well, he didn't see this. That's the issue.
Yeah.
He didn't see that happen. He
Yeah.
turned around. That happened behind him.
I'm imagining her mouth. It said that split down the middle, and I'm just kind of imagining it looking like
No, not her mouth.
the
Her
mouth.
entire head split down the middle and then split in half.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just kind of imagining like the mouths on the Amnesia, the Dark Descent monsters, but like wider and like
The poofers.
Mm-hmm.
Star, star, star. One of Abe's work's responsibilities as a team leader was training new employees. He had to work out an organized system to get recent recruits up to speed. There was an issue he couldn't pull off, so he was using it as a teaching opportunity. Abe strode through the glittering and gleaming West Arcade, dodging excited kids, and gestured at the stage where a huge animatronic DJ Music Man was.
Music Man!
Yeah!
I know I read ahead of the moment that you flipped the page, and I resisted shouting Music Man right away because I was really excited.
DJ Music Man was hanging out. Abe raised his voice to be heard above the pings and whistles and bells of the arcade games. Most of the time, Abe told his new underling, Princeton, DJ Music Man is in his booth. Abe pointed at DJ Music Man casually, as if the thing didn't bother him at all. Preston was a quiet kid, not yet 20. According to Preston's resume, which Abe assumed was more genuine than his own, Preston was definitely capable of performing maintenance tasks like the one he'd have to handle. Preston, though, wasn't exactly the picture of confidence. He was a husky kid with shaggy brown hair. Posture was hutched, and he didn't seem to have mastered eye contact yet. It
It
looks like
does really.
it looks like a spider, Preston said, eyeing DJ Music Man. I don't like spiders.
Don't
Yeah,
hurt his feelings.
yeah, Abe agreed. I get you. But just remember, he's the creation. We're the creators. You're in charge. Abe was lying through his teeth. He felt no more in charge of DJ Music Man than he did of his brother, Vic, or his bosses. DJ Music Man appeared to be unconcerned about Abe's or Preston's dislike. He continued to snooze in his sound booth. He's just napping.
He's just napping. He's just napping as like these humans badmouth him. He doesn't care. He's just vibing.
He's just slipping.
He gets sleep.
He continued to snooze in his sound booth while Abe and Preston studied him. DJ Music Man did indeed look like a spider. Massive spider. Nearly as tall as the room Abe and Preston stood in. DJ Music Man had a squarish head dominated by a wide mouth full of teeth that looked like piano keys. Beyond the teeth, the inside of his mouth glowed pink and white. Huge round black eyes that reflected the room's lights were topped by blue brows and inflanked a yellow I don't know why I'm mixing up colors. Huge.
I'm like, yellow.
I don't know why. It's because of all the yellow that was mentioned earlier.
It's all the yellow of the back rooms that's getting to you.
Huge round black eyes that reflected the room's light were topped by blue brows and flanked a triangular-shaped pink nose. The big cheeks on either side of the nose featured big blue dots that matched the brows. DJ Music Man's head sat on a body that contained a big speaker. The body was attached to 6 metal piston-like legs that ended in cartoonish, white-gloved hands. Taken separately, DJ Music Man's features were more comical than scary. But the combination, and the potential danger of the combination, was more than a little disconcerting.
I don't know. His face is pretty creepy looking. Like, I mean, I love him, but you know.
You love him for that creep factor.
Yeah, no, I love him for that creep factor. It's the same reason, like, why I love biblically accurate sun and moon. I wish more
No, no, no.
artists
You
like
know
him
what? You
were.
know what your love of DJ Music Man reminds me of? That one little girl from I don't know what it's from, but she's handed this doll and she's like, "It's hideous. I love him."
Exactly, exactly. You get it. I have a plushie of DJ Music Man, and his face, like they got the face entirely wrong, and he looks so squished. But you can buy them at Walmart's website, and I'm pretty sure they're not an official plush.
What did the tag say?
I don't know. They said it was official, but like
No,
when
no, no. The
I
tag on
ordered
the
it
doll. The
from
tag on the doll. Is there a tag on the
no,
doll?
no, no. Like that's the thing. I ordered it from Walmart's website, but it came with no tags on the doll at all. None.
Well then.
Mystery DJ Music Man plush, and I love him very much.
Continuing on. Abe cleared his throat, just like I did, and looked away from the freaky spider thing. When DJ Music Man is on the move, he hangs out in these tunnels. Abe gestured at a wide, corrugated metal tube swirling with bright neon lighting. The lighting in these things is notoriously unreliable. It's always going out or causing power surges that overload the circuits. One of your jobs will be checking and rechecking the generators in this section. He looked at Preston to see if he was listening. Preston swallowed hard and nodded. Abe gestured for Preston to follow him into one of the tubes. These tunnels are pretty convoluted, but you'll get the hang of them. This first one takes you to a back hallway. Abe and Preston crawled out of the tunnel and ended up in a cement floor hallway. Preston looked past Abe. Is that a bathroom? Preston asked. Abe nodded. Is it okay if... Abe laughed. You don't need my permission to pee. Go ahead. Just be careful. Preston's sleepy brown eyes widened. Okay. Abe figured he might as well use the bathroom too. He followed Preston to the restroom. Preston and Abe did their business and stepped up to the side-by-side sinks. Why did you tell me to be careful? Preston asked. Well, sometimes... A scraping, scuffling sound suddenly came from right outside the restroom. Abe tensed.
I'm just giggling because I'm imagining DJ Music Man. Like when you go to the bathroom, it's just like a dog outside your door.
That's literally what's happening right now, though!
It's literally what's happening. And that puts like in the games when he's like trying to get Gregory in the bathroom in like a whole different perspective. He's just like, where did you go? I can't see you in there.
Abe tensed. He grabbed Preston and pulled, just as one of DJ Music Man's big puffy gloved hands shot through the bathroom's open doorway. Preston screamed as DJ Music Man grabbed him by the leg.
Oh my
Thankfully,
god.
Abe was already dragging Preston backwards and the puffy hand didn't get a good grip. Abe and Preston hugged the wall just out of the hand's reach. Both of them stared past the extended middle leg to the grinning face of the DJ Music Man, which peered into the bathroom menacingly. What do we do? Preston squeaked. We wait, Abe whispered. They stood stiffly, breathing rapidly. Why did he grab me? Preston whispered. Abe's whisper was even softer than Preston's. Rumor has it that the DJ Music Man originally had an experimental bouncer mode. Supposedly that was removed, but apparently the programmer missed a few lines of code because he keeps stalking people to the bathroom.
Why is it specifically the bathroom though? What does the DJ think is happening in there? Does he not know what bathroom
I added lib that bathroom part.
I know you ad-libbed that bathroom part, but I'm wondering why he just like tries to grab people that are specifically in the bathroom. Because I know people had like theories that he was protecting the Princess Quest arcade in the back. No, it seems like he doesn't give a shit about that. What he cares about is people using his bathroom.
You know what I think it is? It's bouncer
What?
mode, right?
Yeah.
Bouncers are supposed to stop people from doing riffraff and all that inside of clubs, as well as having sex in the bathroom.
Oh. Well, maybe. And drugs in the bathroom.
Yeah, so that's why he's like just watching them and grabbing them. He's like, "Are you doing drugs in here?"
It's like, kids, you're doing drugs. That's funny because Handler was in my fic. Handler's just smoking on his dance floor, and DJ's just kind of looking at him like, "Bro, what the fuck?"
Well, he can't exactly throw him out because he had the security uniform on.
Right, exactly.
These guys are just wearing normal uniforms.
No, I just find it funny that DJ Music Man watches you pee. Oh man, you're lucky that there isn't like a hole that he can appear in the bathroom. Just imagine that face looking at you from his hole.
I mean,
Staring at
technically, he
you.
just has to push the door open with a finger, and he's doing that already.
Yeah, basically.
DJ Music Man's hand explored the area for a long minute. Preston didn't ask any more questions. DJ Music Man retreated. For several seconds, Abe and Preston panted in unison. DJ Music Man finally disappeared around the corner. Does this job have hazard pay? Preston asked. Very valid question.
No. No, it does not. It's Fazbear Entertainment. That little section had nothing to do with the story, but I quite enjoyed that.
Anything with Music Man is good. Star,
I
star,
did-
star.
No, I just find it funny. DJ Music Man is just like every time you're in that bathroom, he's like, "What are you doing in here?"
Abe entered his apartment and let the door fall closed behind him. He set down a box on the floor. When he'd moved into into the Pizzaplex. Abe had hidden what few things he'd owned in various nooks and crannies in the huge complex. It would take him time to get them all and relocate everything to his new apartment. He'd planned to start moving in his stuff the night before, but it had been late, and he needed sleep. Abe was beat. He wasn't sure he'd done all that well on the job today either. Preston was so rattled that Abe wouldn't have been at all surprised to find out tomorrow that he quit. Well, that wouldn't really be your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the DJ.
Right, that would be the DJ watching them be.
Abe took a step toward the kitchen. The nearest glass panel lit up. 3, who was eating a large holographic sandwich, filled the panel. Hi, welcome home, Abe. The words came out garbled, as if spoken with a mouthful of food. The glass panel came alive with more color and movement. Abe realized he was looking at 2 more Bobbiedots. One Bobbiedot's dominant color was green, and the other's was blue. For heaven's sake, the green Bobbiedot said. Her voice sounded young, like 3's, but it wasn't as cutesy. More spoiled brat sarcastic than teeny bop. You know you can't eat. You're a hologram, you twit. Can too, 3 said. See? I'm eating. But you're... The green Bobbiedot sighed dramatically. Never mind. The blue Bobbidot shoved 3 aside. Hi, Abe. Sorry we didn't get to meet you yesterday. 3 blocked us out. This Bobbidot also sounded like a teenager. Her voice was even higher pitched than 3's, but it had musical quality, as if she was almost singing her words. This one is Hatsune Miku.
Oh, so she has like green bluish hair.
Yeah. I just wanted to be sure he had everything he needed, 3 said in a mush-mouth sort of way. You just wanted to have him all to yourself, the green Bobbidot said. She faced Abe. Hi, Abe. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm 2. Like Miss Glutton here, my job is to help you out. You're not nearly as helpful as I am, 3 said. Like 3, 2 had 2 long pigtails. 2's were bright neon green. She looked like 3, but her features were green and she wore a pair of round, gray glasses. A little taller than 3, 2 was sleeker, too. She wore a bodysuit identical to 3's. 2 ignored 3's comment. She adjusted her glasses and continued to speak to Abe. I'm in charge of news and information. I'll keep you connected to the outside world. I can answer any question you have and find you any information you need. I'll also handle any notes you might have, like tasks or shopping lists. And I'll do your scheduling. I'll remind you of appointments and such. Show off. 3 swallowed the last bit of her sandwich, or at least she appeared to. The blue Bobbidot flashed brighter. Hi, I'm 1. I'm all about entertainment and media, so you're Hatsune Miku. That includes social media. I'll get you music and movies and dates. Yeah, yum, I like dates, 3 said. They're good in cookies. 1 rolled her holographic eyes. Her pigtails were bright blue, and her ears were covered in a set of headphones that featured upright antenna.
They're all Hatsune Miku. He's just being circled by like 3 different colored versions of Hatsune Miku.
And in glowing little blue circles. She also wore a gray and white bodysuit. It's nice to meet you, 1 and 2, Abe said. Better late than never. 1 poked 3 in her round belly. 3 ignored the prod. He's cute, isn't he? Didn't I tell you he's cute? 1, who, Abe noted, was as slender as 2, gave Abe a flirty grin. You are pretty darn cute. Those freckles are to die for. I wish I had freckles, 3 said. I don't really like my freckles, Abe blurted. No one else in my family has them. Abe was shocked. He hadn't ever told anyone he didn't like his freckles, least of all a girl. But these weren't really girls, were they? For some reason, he felt comfortable with them. Maybe that was because they were holograms. Who says you have to look like everyone else? 2 said. She studied Abe. I'd call you moderately handsome. Wouldn't you, 1? Absolutely. 1's bright blue pigtails appeared to glow brighter. Just the right amount of handsome. You're nice and tall, and you have a great smile. I think the freckles are endearing. Thank you, Abe said. What do you want for dinner? 3 asked. I'm still hungry. I'll eat with you. You're always hungry, 2 said, using a green-tipped finger to push her glasses up on her nose. I knew it. I knew she was going to do the anime glasses thing.
Yeah, the anime glasses thing.
Yeah, and you're always a show-off.
They're like the Alvin, Simon, and Theodore of Hatsune Miku. I'm not wrong.
You're not. Except their colors are switched, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Like one is the cocky one is the one that's all about food, one is the smart one.
Abe laughed. I need to go get a couple more boxes of my things, then I'll eat. Is there anything here to eat? Fridge and freezer are fully stocked, Three said. She put a finger to her bright pink lips as if she was thinking. It's all stuff the last guy ordered. If you don't like what's here, you just need to tell me what you want, and it will be delivered. I'll get it to the right places in the kitchen. Okay, let me finish moving things in, and then we'll go from there. We'll be waiting, one said. Her blue fingertips glowed as she pointed at a glass panel between the sitting area and the kitchen. That's our main terminal. You can input your quests there, or you can just talk to us. Think of us as the heart and soul of your apartment. We make it function to serve your needs. We'll provide synchronization and assistance in all aspects of your everyday life. That includes food, Three said. Abe smiled at her. Yeah, I get it. Star, star, star. This apartment is just all it's Hatsune Miku's.
Yeah, it's just all Hatsune Miku's. Just
Uh,
all Miku.
a half hour later, Abe had brought in 3 more boxes, and he was storing his belongings in various drawers and closets in the apartment. The Bobbiedots were helping. Abe's new bedroom was as stark as the rest of the apartment. Its furnishings consisted of a queen-size bed with gray padded headboard that matched the bed's gray comforter, 2 built-in nightstands that cantilevered out from the wall, 1 long dresser, and 1 narrow chest of drawers. I think socks should go in the second drawer, Two said. Top drawer should be reserved for papers and jewelry and the like. Who says? Three asked. Two flipped their pigtails haughtily. I've accessed multiple resources focused on optimal organization. They all agree that socks are best kept in second drawers. You just find things that support your own ideas, Three said. Abe held up his hands. Ladies! Three giggled. Did you hear that? He called us ladies. He's a gentleman, one said. Quite gallant, Two said. And still cute, Three said.
The what? I'd move back into the Pizzaplex at this point. I'm like, screw this.
Clearly these AI are sentient and actually hitting on him,
Yeah, yeah.
or just trying to make him vulnerable.
So they can eat him or something. There was that weird open mouth split thing that she did.
No, not open mouth. Her entire head split.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what I meant.
Abe shook his head, but he put his socks in the second drawer. He opened a battered suitcase and pulled out a few shirts. Three jumped from the outside bedroom glass wall to the glass wall next to the closet. The closet already has lots of clothes. I think most of them will fit you. Abe raised an eyebrow. Landon's clothes were still here? Yeah, he died.
Yeah, he definitely died. And they probably killed him.
Abe crossed the sliding door and pushed it aside to reveal a closet that was half full of men's clothing. Nice clothing, too. Abe set aside his own shirts and began flipping through the hanging clothes in the closet. He had nice taste, didn't he? Two asked. Not the latest fashions, according to my research, but pleasing in a retro sort of way. Abe had to agree. Lynn's closet was full of slacks and vintage short-sleeved shirts, the kind that were worn untucked. Abe's own wardrobe mostly consisted of jeans and t-shirts. What would he look like in these clothes? Try them on, Three squealed. For once, I agree with her, one said. Try them on. I think they'll please your potential dates. Abe shrugged. Why not? Yay! Three clapped their hands. Abe pulled off his shirt. He blanched when he turned and saw all 3 Bobbiedots watching him. A little privacy, ladies? Sorry, one said. Party pooper, Three giggled. Oh, shut up, Two said. Three. All 3
reminds
Bobbiedots.
me
Hmm?
reminds me of that one scene of in El Dorado where like they're changing their clothes and he's like, "Do you mind?" And she's like, "No," and keeps staring at them.
Yes, except they're probably still watching. They just turn off their
Yeah, yeah,
holograms.
yeah, exactly.
Abe tried on a pair of black slacks. They were a little loose, but passable. He pulled on a red and black colored block rayon shirt. Okay, you can look now. He realized he was being ridiculous. They were holograms, and their visual processors could probably monitor him whether they were on screen or not. All 3 Bobbie dots reappeared. Oh, be still my heart, Three said. Quite flattering, Two said. You look ready for a night out dancing, one said. Oh, I love dancing, three said. Play something, one. The
And
quick
then
beat
Hatsune Miku plays.
the quick beat of a pop song suddenly filled the room. All three Bobbiedots started dancing, whirling and dipping. The Bobbiedots flitted from glass wall to glass wall around the bedroom. Abe couldn't help himself. He laughed and started dancing too, pretending to dance with each Bobbidot in turn. Abe let himself go crazy. He boogied until he was dripping with sweat. Finally, he collapsed on his bed. Now I'm gonna have to wash these clothes, he said. Oh, don't worry about that, Three said breathlessly, as if she was winded. Just put them in the hamper and I'll take care of them. Thanks, Abe's stomach growled. I'll do that later. Right now, I'm hungry. Goody! Food! Three winked out of view. Where'd she go? Abe asked one and two. She's in the kitchen, one said. She's worse than Pavlov's dog, two said. Careful when you go in there. You might slip on our drool.
I'm just imagining three, like, oh boy, holographic meatloaf!
Except she can actually eat the holographic meatloaf.
Yeah, exactly.
Abe laughed and headed into the kitchen. He couldn't remember the last time he felt this happy. Star, star, star. Abe looked down at his plate of food. He wrinkled his nose, then looked up at the Bobbiedots. Are you sure about this? The dining room's half walls formed a U around the table. Abe was sitting at the open end of the U, and each of the three Bobbiedots was seated on one of the half glass wall screens, so it appeared that we were sitting at the table with them. On the screens, all three had holographic plates of food, identical to
He was
Abe's.
joking about the holographic meatloaf, but it looks like that's his reality.
Food identical to Abe's in front of them. Three's plate has twice as much food as anyone else's, and she was staring at the food intently. One and two were ignoring the food. It's just for show, one had said when they set the table. We want you to have a family dining experience. No, three answered Abe's question. Based on my analysis of your blood, you're deficient in multiple nutrients, especially vitamin K, selenium, iron, and potassium. And based on your description
When
of what
did
you've
she
been...
take a when did she take a blood sample?
I have
In
no
his
idea.
sleep?
Maybe.
Probably in his sleep. Just like pricked him and like
Probably. And based on your
Mhm.
description of what you've been eating, you're clearly not getting enough fiber or protein. Brussels sprouts provide 137% of recommended daily intake of vitamin K and... Abe's held up a hand. How about we skip the details? Three jutted out her pink lower lip and turned her back to Abe. Abe looked at her rounded shoulders. They were shaking. Abe stared. Are you crying? Three didn't answer. Abe looked at one and two. Is she crying? No one likes their hard work to go unappreciated, two said. She adjusted her glasses and pursed her green lips. Don't you like it when you're appreciated, Abe? One crossed her arms. The blue eyes flashed. Yeah, no one wants to be taken for granted. Abe felt ridiculously bad. Three, I'm sorry, I appreciate you. Three turned around and effected a dramatic sniff. Her pink pigtails jostled around her head. Abe stared at Three's back. She was a hologram, but she was acting like a real girl. Abe sighed. He wasn't great with girls, and he wasn't sure how to treat these holographic ones. Abe suddenly had a thought. Hey, he said, I have an idea. Three kept her back to him, but one and two looked at him expectantly. Do you all really like being called by numbers? Abe asked. I think you're far too special to be named 1, 2, and 3. How about I call you by real names? Abe hoped that idea would diffuse the whole taken for granted situation. And it did. Three turned around, her eyes wide and her grin wider. Really? Real names? Her pigtails bounced. Sure, Abe said. I can call you Rose. What do you think? Rose. Three breathed as if the name was that of a revered goddess. She beamed. My name is Rose. What about me? One asked. I want a pretty name too, Miku.
Miku. They're all Miku.
How about Gemini? Abe asked. Like the constellation. I always think of a blue color when I think of stars. Gemini, one repeated. I like that. She looked at her fellow Bobbiedots. Did you hear that? I'm a star. Rose sniffed and lifted her chin. I'm a flower. What am I? Two asked. I like the name Olive, Abe said, and I love green olives.
You know what
All
this reminds me of? It's like the Powerpuff Girls movie where when he's naming the girls, it's like, I'll call you Blossom and Buttercup and Bubbles because it also starts with a B.
No, no, I'll call you Bubbles for your bubbly personality, Blossom for being so blossomy, and
Yeah.
you Buttercup because it also
Buttercup
starts
because
with a
it
B.
also starts with a B. Yeah. I
That's
messed
literally
up the quote, but
that's literally what's going on here. He's naming the pink one and the blue one, and then he's just going olive because I love olives.
right, exactly.
Olives are fruits, Tu said. Fruits are luscious. So malicious fruit. Gemini snorted, and Rose giggled. Abe smiled. Okay, Gemini, Olive, and Rose. Now that you have proper names, let me officially say that I appreciate you. All three Bobbiedots grinned widely. Relieved that the Bobbiedots were happy again, Abe returned his attention to the food. According to the package he pulled from the freezer, this meal was a Moroccan-inspired dish. The music playing from the overhead speakers was Moroccan too, according to Gemini. She started the music when she'd lowered the lights to set the mood. I just love romantic meals, she said when the recessed lighting dimmed. Let's eat before it gets cold, Rose said. Gemini snorted and shook her head. Abe's stomach growled. He was starving. So he picked up his real fork. He speared a chunk of tofu and put it in his mouth. Immediately, he brightened. Hey, that's pretty good. Abe began plowing through the meal. Good boy, Olive said. If you try to pat me on the head, I'll shut you off. Abe winked at Olive. She laughed. You can't shut us off. Gemini's blue-tipped antenna vibrated as she spoke. Abe paused mid-chew. Really? Gemini didn't answer. Neither did the other two Bobbiedots. Abe looked at them in turn. Gemini and Olive smiled sweetly at him. Rose concentrated on scraping up the last for pretend food. Abe shrugged and returned to eating. He couldn't get over how good the food tasted. Even before he'd started subsisting on pizza, Abe's food's tastes had been pretty simple. When the Bobbiedots had joined Abe in the kitchen to make dinner, he explained that to them, along with his previous 2 months' pizza diet. Rose had immediately asked him to place his hand on the glass screen near the fridge. Oh, so this is where he got the blood sample taken.
Oh, okay.
When he did so, he felt a prick at the end of his middle finger. After he whipped his hand back with an owl, Rose informed him that she was analyzing his blood. Abe finished his food and pushed his plate away. He pointed at his empty plate. So this was one of Landon's favorites? Landon liked to study languages, and he wanted to eat the food that went along with the cultures he was studying. Olive said. What happened to Landon? Abe asked. Why did he move out? I think it would be fun to live in Morocco, Olive said. Such a colorful place. I love color. Is that where Landon went? Abe asked. Our knowledge of our attendant doesn't extend beyond the network, Gemini said. Her blue pigtails flickered around her shoulders. Didn't he tell you guys where he was going when he left? Abe asked. Weren't you as friendly with him as you were with me? We love getting to know our tenants, Gemini said. We always learn something new when we have a new tenant, Olive said. We always interact with our tenants. Especially you, Rose said. You're so fun. I don't trust this.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling that he can turn them off. They're just not telling him how he can do that.
And they're completely deflecting and avoiding answering the question.
Yeah, well, it just says right there that he noticed they're deflecting.
I didn't read that part yet.
Mhm,
The Bobbiedots were avoiding Abe's questions. There we go. Should he
mhm.
push them? Decided to try one more time. Why didn't Landon take his clothes with him? There are some really nice things he left behind. I'm so happy the clothes fit you, Rose said. They look really good
Mm.
on you. They'll be perfect when you go on dates, Gemini said. Many studies show that women prefer well-dressed men, Olive said. They were definitely avoiding his questions. Abe looked at the Bobbiedots' sweet, bright faces. Their evasiveness was a little unsettling. Let's watch a movie, Gemini said. A romantic comedy would be nice. If you put your plate in the dishwasher, Rose said, I'll start the cycle. They also keep wanting to romance him.
Yeah. What kind of Doki Doki Literature Club type of shit is this?
Yandere AI house.
Yandere AI house. Yandere AI Hatsune Miku house. There are yandere Hatsude Miku songs.
Abe considered asking the Bobbiedots point blank why they wouldn't answer his questions, but then he shrugged away his concerns. The Bobbiedots were probably just programmed to protect tenants' privacies. Why would he want them babbling about his business to the next tenant? Definitely not. Abe stood and picked up his plate. I'd rather watch an action movie, he told Gemini. A list of action movies began to scroll on the nearest glass screen. Several of them have asterisks next to them. What are the stars movies? Abe asked. Action movies with romantic subplot. Gemini touched her blue headphones. I love the romances. Of course. Abe laughed. He tapped one of the starred movies. Okay, we'll watch this one. Then I need to get to bed. I've had a long day.
What is going on with these girls? Like, they can't get in his pants. They want something from him, though.
Yeah. Star, star, star. Abe said goodnight to the Bobbiedots and settled in bed. He put his computer on his lap, opened it, and extended his fingers over the keyboard. For the second night in a row, he was excited about writing to his mom. Last night, he told her about his promotion in the new apartment. Now he could tell her about the Bobbiedots. For the next 10 minutes, Abe wrote a long email, describing the Bobbiedots in great detail. He ended his story with how their names came about. I thought if they had real names, they'd feel more appreciated, he wrote. And I was right. I picked names for them that reminded me of their colors. 1 is Gemini, 2 is Olive, and 3 is Rose. They really like their names. I wish you could see the Bobbiedots. They're pretty amazing. Abe wrote a few more lines and finished with his usual I love you. Then he set aside his laptop and settled into sleep.
The next day, the Bobbiedots are like, "Who did you say you love you to?"
I think they would realize that he's talking to his mom because he said, Hi, Mom, at the start.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, at the same time, 3/Rose thought that hot sauce belonged in a medicine cabinet.
She thought it was mouthwash.
Yeah.
Star, star, star. Abe set his coffee cup and empty bowl in the dishwasher. Breakfast had been oatmeal with orange juice. Abe, not a morning person, had managed to dissuade Rose from explaining why oatmeal and orange juice were good for him, and he teased her about not sharing a dozen donuts she ate while he was spooning up his hot cereal. What time will you be home? Olive asked. Providing me with your itinerary enhances my scheduling function. Abe shrugged. My shift ends at 6, and I shouldn't be late tonight. He nearly laughed with glee at the thought that he could end his day at a reasonable hour. He was overjoyed that he had a place to go, a place other than the makeshift tire cave at the end of his workday. After 2 nights of sleeping in a real bed, a nice, soft, real bed, Abe's back was feeling great. All the aches and pains that had resulted from sleeping on the floor were nearly gone. The spare that Abe had begun to wear like a heavy cloak was gone too. For the first time in weeks, Abe felt hope for his future. I'll be sure your food orders are filled by the time you get home, Rose said as Abe headed toward the apartment's front door. All 3 Bobbiedots followed Abe through the apartment via the glass screens. Rose, Abe noted, had powdered sugar on her pink upper lip, from the donuts. The Bobbiedots' programming is amazing, he thought, not for the first time. Thanks, Abe said to Rose. While he had eaten breakfast, Rose and Olive had discussed how to stock Abe's kitchen with foods that were nutritious and more agreeable to Abe's tastes. They settled on a variety of Mexican and Italian food, along with a selection of tofu burgers and organic fries. Now Abe turned and waved at the Bobbiedots. I'll see you later. Bye! They called out gleefully in unison. Abe put his hand on his apartment door handle and pulled it open. As soon as he did, he heard voices in the hallway. He rose and gently pushed the door nearly closed. He listened. I think we should go hiking this weekend, a woman's voice said, just a few feet from Abe's door. I'd rather go to the spa, another woman said. Spas are boring, the first woman said. But they're relaxing. If you want to relax, just go soak in the hot tub here. He put his forehead against the cool metal door and waited. The woman continued to chatter, moved on down the hall. Abe's shoulders slumped. He thought about the building's hot tub and all its other amenities. As long as Abe's tenancy in this apartment was unauthorized, he couldn't risk using the common areas. The hot tub was off limits to him, so was getting to know his neighbors. Even though he now had a nice place to sleep, he wasn't done with sneaking around. Something wrong? Rose asked. Are you still hungry? Do you need more food before you go? Abe turned to the Bobbiedots. They watched him brightly, while smiling widely. He smiled back at them. As he did, his gaze drifted up. He frowned and stepped back toward the kitchen. He pointed. What's that? And the Bobbiedots turned to look in the direction of Abe's pointing finger. Are you sure you don't need to eat something? Rose asked. She picked up one of her pigtails and swirled it. Maybe some music to send you on your way? Gemini asked. She touched a blue-tipped finger to her headset. No, thank you, Abe said before any music could begin. He pointed again and repeated himself. Bobbiedots, what's that? The ceiling, between the dining area and the sitting area, had a trap door, about 2 feet square. The door wasn't large, but it was definitely big enough for a person to get through. Abe started walking back toward the kitchen. As soon as he took a step, all 3 Bobbiedots started waving their arms and flinging their pigtails. The green, blue, and pink colors flashed so quickly, lights seemed to streak across the glass screen throughout the apartment. Then, as fast as the movement and color went crazy, it settled. Olive filled the screen closest to Abe. She used both her hands to resettle her glasses. You are going to be late for work if you don't leave now. She popped to a screen close to the door as if trying to lead Abe away from the kitchen. Gemini's blue eyes blinked twice. Then she said, The door is just used for maintenance. It's locked. Tenants aren't provided access. Abe nodded and started to turn back toward the apartment door. Just as he did, though, he noticed a crack of darkness at the edge of the trapdoor. The trapdoor wasn't completely closed.
Hmm.
I'm living in your walls! I'm living in your walls! I'm living in your walls!
Sus.
Star, star, star. Abe whistled as he entered the Pizzaplex's Phaser Blast arena. Though technically he could have given this job to one of his team members, Abe liked working in the arena. Repairs and maintenance here were usually pretty easy, so he could get away with playing a little laser tag before he went back to the rest of his work. Like all the venues in the Pizzaplex, the Phaser Blast arena was loud and garishly bright. The high-pitched zap sounds of Phaser blasters going off all over and the frantic note of the Phaser Blast Jam. Venue's techno-rock theme music. You could barely hear yourself think in the arena. But Abe didn't mind that. In fact, drumming out his thoughts was usually a good thing. Before he got his promotion, he tried to avoid thinking about his desperate situation. Now he didn't have to think about how precarious his new-found comfort actually was. Abe didn't mind at all the dazzling neon in the area, either. All the dazzling neon in the area. All the dazzling neon in the arena, either. It was definitely a pick-me-up from in the middle of a long workday. The neon lighting in the area created geometric patterns on all the half-wall players used for cover. Abe thought the designs looked like modern hieroglyphics. They do look like hieroglyphics, honestly.
Yeah.
Because he's describing exactly how they appear in the game. He
Yeah.
often wondered if they actually meant something, like a secret code that lit up on the walls of the arena.
Do we have to go back through the game and look at the walls of Phaser Blast trying to find secret codes in the walls? Is that what you're trying to tell us, book? Because I'm not down for that.
A couple of preteen boys streaked past Abe. Their phaser blasters extended in front of them. A nearby alien bot, its tall white body rolling toward Abe, menacingly in tone, captured the flag. Abe ducked behind a half wall and watched the bot's helmet pass by. Abe thought the phaser blast helmets, with antennas extending from them, made everyone look like upright bees. This alien
I
bot
wish
was...
they had the alien bots. The alien bots looked cool.
This alien bot was functioning correctly. Players in the Phaser Blast arena were tasked with working through the course to capture several flags. They had to do so without being killed. According to the work order Abe had received, one of the alien bots was glitching. Instead of saying, "Resistance is futile," as its programming intended, it was saying, "Resistance is pizza."
I don't know why that made me laugh. Resistance is pizza.
Abe couldn't help but wonder if one of the programmers was having a little fun. To get into the Phaser Blast arena, Abe had passed through the staging area, where players picked up their blasters, helmets, and other gear. In that area, players were given team designations as well. Abe hadn't geared up yet. In addition to his Pizzaplex uniform shirt, he was wearing a bright red vest marked Maintenance. In spite of that, kids had attempted to shoot him. Abe waved them off and continued his search for the malfunctioning alien bot. To be fair, in a laser tag place, if you're wearing a vest, that's obviously just a sign for a shooting.
Yeah. Also, I'm surprised that the staff bots can even go into like the laser tag area with their wheels, and I'm surprised that kids just like don't push them over when they're like getting
Maybe
too
they
rowdy in
do.
there.
Maybe they do.
They probably do.
Abe found it guarding the last flag that players had to capture before reaching the winner's elevator, which took players to the Superstar Lounge. After Abe deactivated the bot and reprogrammed the bot's script, he retraced his steps to the staging area, joining the orange team. He donned his helmet and picked up a blaster. Now he could have a little fun. Following a couple of giggling girls, Abe trotted into the arena and headed for the first flag. He'd played this game enough that he was pretty good at it, but the alien bots were programmed to vary their routines, and every game was different. This is why one of the bots managed to get the jump on Abe. He had to pivot and dive to avoid getting shot. Unfortunately, Abe's rubber sole caught on the carpet, and he careened around the wall and tumbled down the ramp leading to the lower section of the arena. His ankle twisted so violently that Abe had cried out. A scruffy-haired boy, not more than 10 years old, rushed over to Abe. "Are you okay, sir?" Abe already felt like an idiot. "Sir?" I felt old, too. "I'm fine," Abe said, rubbing his ankle. He spotted an alien bot over the boy's shoulder. "You better look out." The boy whirled and fired off a shot. Then he scampered down the ramp and disappeared. Abe took off his helmet and gingerly got to his feet as he watched the bot pursue the boy. He tested his twisted ankle. Pain shot up his leg, but the ankle held. His dignity in shambles, Abe limped out of the arena. It looked like he was to be doing paperwork for the rest of the day.
I'm gonna think that that boy is Gregory.
Star, star, star. The Bobbiedots had made a big deal of Abe's swollen ankle. All described it in great detail, the mechanism of a twisted ankle and the appropriate treatment for it, while Rose provided the ice and the wrap that Abe needed to bring the swelling down. Gemini played soothing music and queued up a distracting sci-fi movie. One with a romantic subplot, of course. Abe ate a spinach and lasagna dinner, sitting up on the sofa with his feet up while the Bobbiedots clustered around him and repeatedly asked him how he was feeling. Although their questions and comments on his well-being made it challenging to watch the movie, he enjoyed the concern. Abe went to bed feeling well cared for. He was so relaxed that he went right to sleep. A couple hours later, though, Abe was wide awake. He sat up in his bed. What had awakened him so abruptly? Abe rubbed his eyes and looked around. All he saw were the dark outlines of a room's furniture. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was moving. Why were the hairs on Abe's arms standing on end? Abe opened his mouth, intending to call out the Bobbiedots, but he quickly thought better of it. What if someone was in the apartment? Had he been found out? Abe remained still and listened. At first, Abe heard nothing but distant traffic noise. But then he heard something closer. It was a very soft sound, like material brushing against something. Abe held his breath and concentrated. The sound shifted in tone. Instead of a gentle rush, it became a quiet rasp. The sound was low, but it was long and steady. The image of a snake slithering across the carpet
Snake.
Flash.
Remember
The
in the
hallway.
Steve Snodgrass story, there were like snakes in the walls?
I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes in these motherfucking hallway.
And why is it snakes? Why do I keep coming back to snakes?
Abe went rigid. He hated snakes. Abe's fear of unseen reptiles erased any nervousness about being seen or heard. He spoke up. Bobbiedots, turn on the lights. Rose immediately materialized in the glass panel near Abe's bed. His bedside lamp came on. Abe looked around his room. Everything looked normal. Beyond the glass walls, the rest of the apartment was dark. Did you want a midnight snack? Rose asked. Abe shook his head. I thought I heard something. Sometimes I hear food calling out to me, Rose said. Olive materialized next to Rose. Her green eyes studied Abe intently. Did you have a nightmare? Studies have shown that sensory experiences from nightmares can delude a person into thinking the nightmares turn into reality. Abe thought for a
That
second.
sounds that sounds a lot like what happened to Steve Snodgrass. What is going on?
Abe thought for a second. Did a nightmare wake him up? He didn't think so. If he'd had a nightmare, he'd already forgotten it. Is the apartment secure? Abe asked the Bobbiedots. Rose nodded several times. Her hot pink pigtails were distractingly bright. Abe's eyes hadn't yet adjusted to the light. Everything's totally cool. Abe listened. The sound was gone. Abe shook his head. Maybe he'd imagined the sound. Well, he was awake. He might as well pee before he went back to sleep. Abe swung his legs off the bed, remembering his ankle. He hesitantly put his weight on it. It was sore, but it held up just fine. All the instruction how to wrap the ankle had served Abe well. Wearing just the pajama bottoms he slept in, he shuffled toward the bathroom. Before he reached the bathroom, Olive turned its lights on low. Thanks, Abe said. He went into the bathroom and shut the door. Although the bathroom's walls were half glass like those in the bedrooms, and the Bobbiedots had access to the glass screens in here, Abe had instructed them to give him complete privacy in the bathroom unless he stated otherwise. Abe stepped over the toilet. He started to do his thing, but suddenly felt a prickle at the back of his neck. He was sure he was being watched. Abe looked around the small tiled room. The glass screens, though all the space, were dark. Abe finished his business and glanced around. The feeling of being observed hadn't gone away. Abe quickly flushed the toilet and left the bathroom.
Wash
As,
your hands.
as he figured they would be, the Bobbiedots were waiting for him in the bedroom. How's the ankle? Gemini asked. Her blue-tipped antenna canted to the left as she tilted her head to look at Abe's ankle. Huh? Oh, it's fine. Abe rubbed the back of his neck and surveyed the bedroom. He and the Bobbiedots were alone. Do you record my movements? Abe asked the Bobbiedots. We are attuned to your movements so as to be available should you need us, Olive answered, adjusting her glasses. But no record is made of your activities. Abe nodded. So you're not watching me? Not in the way I believe you mean, Olive said. We don't observe you. We simply respond to you. Do you do anything at night? Cleaning or whatever? Abe asked. Maybe the Bobbiedots had been doing something that made the sound Abe had heard. We're dormant at night unless we're summoned, Olive said. Are you sure you don't want a snack? Rose asked. Abe shook his head. He got back in bed. Go ahead and turn the light out, Rose, he said. Rose sighed, but he turned out the light. All the Bobbiedots said good night, and then they were gone. Abe lay in the darkness and listened. He knew he was probably making a big deal of nothing. Even so, he couldn't ignore what he was feeling. Eventually, he closed his eyes, unsettled but tired enough to ignore it. He went back to sleep.
You know what?
What?
Hmm? Well, I was just gonna say that I think in the Steve Snodgrass story, he was relocated into one of these apartments because it's like the same thing, like the snakes in the walls and shit like that. And he was snowed in too, and his perception of things was diluted. So I think he got transferred to one of these apartments as well.
Well, that one was just a standalone building, not an apartment.
Yeah.
One day later.
Back to the Hatsune Mikus that don't really look like Hatsune Mikus like we thought, because apparently the art on the back of the next volume reveals what they look like, and they look hideous.
Yeah, Ceph showed me the art of what they look like, and they are horrible. I don't like them.
Like, I would not describe that as cute. Like, maybe in a weird kind of way
Look,
cute, but
oh,
not cute like
you
the
know
way
what?
the book's describing them.
That the Bobbiedots are like flirting with this guy, and he'll fall for their feminine wiles probably and die. I have no sympathy for them if that's what they're supposed to look like.
The cover of the Bobbiedots conclusion, though, like, shows, like, the inside of their faces, though, like, their skulls and all that.
I like their skull better than what they actually look like.
Same.
Imagine like having that AI serving you. It
Same,
it it
though.
look like it look would look like kind of like edgy gamer core where everything is all green or black and or red and black, you know.
Mm-hmm. The next night, Abe again woke abruptly. He looked at the clock. It was almost 1 a.m., about the same time he had woken up the night before, and he was hearing the same noise, too. It was a whispery shuffle, like the sound of something being dragged over carpet. Abe got out of bed. Tonight, Abe didn't ask for lights. He wasn't sure why, but he felt like he needed to investigate the sound on his own. Abe tiptoed toward his bedroom door. Pausing there, he listened. The sound was a little farther away, but it was still there. Abe used the bedroom door open. He looked out into the sitting area. Although the apartment's lights were off, the moon outside the window was full. The moon's glow, combined with the unceasing neon glare from the adjacent Pizzaplex, provided enough light for Abe to see his surroundings. He quickly looked for movement. He didn't see any. They could still hear the sound, and the sound definitely indicated movement. Something was in motion. But what? Abe slowly, cautiously padded toward the sofa. He didn't see anything that shouldn't have been there. He heard something, though. It was a muted whoosh, almost like the sound of fabric caught in a light breeze. Abe looked to the window. It was closed. He cocked his head and examined the air vents in the walls. The apartment had central heat and cooling, but neither was on right now. The air felt still. So what was making that fluttering sound? Abe took a step toward the dining room, but he stopped abruptly when the sound changed. It had become a muffled scrape, like something rubbing against something hard, like the surface of the wall. It sounded as if something was moving up the wall. The sound was close. Too close. The rubbing sound was followed by a tap, and Abe heard a muffled whomp. Again, it was very, very close. Lights! Abe called out. He wasn't sure if his one-word command would work. He never tried it before, but it did. All the lights in the apartment came on. Abe looked around. He was alone, except for the Bobbiedots, who now surrounded him on nearby glass panels. What is it? Olive, glowing green, asked. Snack time? Rose, pulsing hot pink, asked. Are you bored? Do you need some entertainment? Gemini, radiating blue, asked. Abe blinked against a barrage of bright colors. He rotated slowly. He frowned. Then he remembered the direction of the sound. It was going up the wall. Abe looked up. The trap door he'd noticed earlier was right above him. Had whatever he'd heard gone through that door? Abe shifted to look at the door more closely. I think we need a snack, Rose said. Abe sighed and glared at Rose. Okay, fine, I'll have a snack, but tell me what that door is for. He went to one of the kitchen cabinets and got out a package of whole grain, high-fiber, fruit-sweetened oatmeal raisin cookies. He had one last night. It was better than he'd expected it to be. Abe sat at the table with his cookie. Rose joined him. She had a dozen cookies on the plate in front of her. So, spill, Abe said. You obviously know something about that. Pointed at the trapdoor. We are second generation Bobbiedots, Olive said. Gen 2s for short, Rose said, around a mouthful of cookies. Also more like, Gen 2s for short. Olive curled her lip at her cohort, but she nodded. That's right. We're known as Gen 2s. Gen 1s preceded us. Doors for the Gen 1s. I have a feeling they're probably Gen 1s that hijacked Gen 2s.
What do you mean?
Well, if all the other apartments have Generation 2 Bobbiedots, but there are other versions of Bobbiedots before them, and they freaked out when you noticed the trapdoor before, which is apparently used by the Gen 1s. I don't know. Let me just continue looking. Olive spoke up. The Gen 1s were the first generation of apartment helpers in the building. Unlike us, they were actual physical robots.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going to say, but I didn't read ahead. I had a feeling that the Gen 1s were like actual animatronics.
That would explain the skull on the cover for the next one.
Oh, so they probably like come out, do a murder or something?
But then that also supplies my theory with some weight too, because if the Gen 2s are what are running the shows now, and all the shows is in the taking care of the apartments and all the other apartment complexes, but theirs is off limits for some reason. It was probably because they had active Gen 1s that were like interfering with the Gen 2s until they eventually took over and probably killed the guy that was before them.
Oh, okay.
That's just what I'm thinking right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Abe's cookie got stuck in his throat. Like animatronics? Gemini nodded. Although they could move around the apartment more freely than we can because they weren't confined to screens, they were limited by their cables. Cables? They're plugged into a grid up in the crawl space above the ceiling, Gemini explained. They have to remain tethered to be functional. Poor things. Can't even imagine. It'd be like being tied up.
Wait a minute. Why are they explaining this now when they were being like deflective before when he asked about the trapdoor?
Because they hadn't come up with a lie yet to tell him?
I guess. But like he asked about the door before and they just like deflected him, so why aren't they deflecting now?
Hmm. We
If
still
they
have a
were
lot
just
to
gonna tell him
learn.
all this anyway. Mm.
Abe set aside his half-eaten cookie. He studied the trapdoor. And they're still up there? Rose nodded enthusiastically. Yep. Okay, so yeah, the animatronic bodies of the previous housekeeper AIs are just in the ceiling. Okay.
That's the snakes in the walls.
Yeah, that's the slithering things he keeps hearing. They're
Yeah.
cables.
Yeah. Why are there always snakes in the walls? It's happened twice now. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I mean, we had a snake underneath our freezer.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
The baby boy's fine now. They're not
Yeah, I
tasked.
remember that because I like snakes.
He was a hungry boy. He ate two fuzzies.
Oh,
They're
big
not.
boy.
They're not tasked with apartment care anymore. Olive said. That privilege lies with us now. They're out of date, and unfortunately, they've been damaged. Damaged, you say? It's very sad, Gemini said. They're so limited, but they still try. What do you mean they try? Abe asked. Rose whipped holographic crumbs off her face. Oh, they still try to fulfill their commands. Sometimes they come out of the crawl space and attempt to help out. She put the last two words in air quotes. Help out, Abe repeated. His voice had a noticeably higher pitch than normal. Are you okay? Rose asked. Your blood pressure has gone up. I'm fine, Abe said. He was lying. He wasn't fine at all. There were robots in his ceiling, and they sometimes came out to help out? Why haven't they been removed? Abe asked. I mean, if they're out of date and damaged, why are they still up there? Oh, they just want to try to help, Gemini said. We feel bad for them, so we let them do what they can, even if it usually creates more work for us. Olive said. Even Bobbiedots have emotions, you know, Rose said. All three Bobbiedots gave Abe a long look. He nodded several times. Of course you do. They're not answering his questions again.
Why? What did they deflect?
They didn't answer his question of why are they still up there? Why haven't they been removed?
Yeah, yeah, I guess not. And I'm starting to get a feeling that this is the reason why the apartment was off limits.
Yeah. He cleared his throat and stood. I need to go back to sleep. Abe glanced up at the trapdoor again. It was still closed. Even so, Abe's stomach clenched. He took a deep breath and headed for the bedroom. Go ahead and turn off all the lights after I'm in bed, please, told the Bobbiedots. Okay, Rose called out. Good night, they all sang out. Abe hurried to his bed, dived under the covers, and pulled his blanket up to his chin. He stared at the darkened ceiling. Was he really safer in this apartment than he had been in the rubber tire fort?
No.
I mean, yeah, because Roxy
I'll
could
answer.
have gutted him if she found him anyway.
Yeah, no, it's about the same level of safety, I would say.
This one's just more comfortable.
Yeah, this one just has a bed.
Star, star, star. Abe had to admit that he was kind of enjoying eating healthier food. He seemed to have more energy, and his head felt clearer. Consequently, he didn't mind that Rose had now prepared for him lists of acceptable foods, and she set out daily menus for him. Today's menu included an
I
apple.
need that. Oh my god, I would
Same,
need
though.
I just want an AI to like manage my diet, buy what food I need to cook for me, and actually like push my ass to actually make better food myself instead of like eating one meal a day and it's burgers. Just I need to stop. I have a
Same, though.
problem.
Today's menu included an apple to go with his whole wheat toast and 2 scrambled eggs. Abe finished his breakfast while Olive wrapped up her reading of the day's current events against the backdrop of the music Gemini had started, which sounded like Celtic piano music. It was fine, but it wasn't something he would have chosen. Abe wasn't sure Gemini's parameters were set quite right. She seemed to be more interested in music and movies that she liked instead of what he preferred.
You know, the moment that they said piano music, I was just imagining every day I imagine a future where I can be with you.
Oh my god.
It's gonna turn Doki Doki up in this bitch.
Although Rose provided all Abe's healthy food, she didn't limit herself to his nutritious choices. This morning she was wolfing down 2 large cinnamon rolls. Abe walked over to the sink and shoved his apple core down into the garbage disposal. As soon as he put his hand past the rubber cover, the disposal came on. Abe yelped and whipped his hand up. "Hey!" he yelled. Abe looked at the garbage disposal switch. It was on. He hadn't touched it. "Rose," Abe said, "why did you turn the garbage disposal on?" Rose looked up. "Did I?" Her huge eyes looked even bigger than usual. That's sus. Sus, 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 sus. She had cinnamon roll
Why
frosting.
did he throw? Why did he throw his apple core down the garbage disposal? That's not what you use a garbage disposal for.
I've honestly, I don't have a garbage disposal, so I don't even know what you're supposed to use them for.
Like when you're cleaning the dishes, sometimes like grease and like the scraps of food from like the dishes like get down in there and stuck in the sink, and then you just use the garbage disposal to shred the food so it like goes down into the pipes. Like you typically don't dispose of food straight up. Like you would throw the apple core into the garbage,
Hmm.
not the garbage disposal. Like I don't know. At least that's just how I've always used them.
I've just seen. Anytime I've seen a garbage disposal actually being used, it's always in like some kind of horror movie or something. Like, one time this lady's scarf got stuck in the garbage disposal and she got like choked to death by her
Yeah.
scarf.
Yeah.
And
To be fair, my garbage disposal is like so dirty and clogged with grease and everything. I could turn it on and stick my hand down there, and the blades are so dull they wouldn't do anything.
please do
They
not.
just like hit
Please
my
do not.
fingers a little
Please.
bit.
Please do not.
I won't. I won't. I'm not stupid.
Okay, good. It came on, Abe snapped. Well, my hand was in it. Rose's lower lip quivered. You're mad at me. Abe immediately felt bad. He looked at his hand. It was fine. His fingers had been above the disposal's grinding mechanism. I'm not mad, Abe said. And he wasn't. He was just. What? Worried? Scared? Why had the disposal come on? Was it a short? Or was it a hiccup in Rose's programming? Either way, there wasn't much Abe could do about it at the moment. He sure couldn't call anyone to look into the problem. It wasn't supposed to be in this apartment, so any issues it had were ones he had to deal with himself. You look upset, Gemini said. She touched her blue-tipped headset. How about some soothing music? Something with a lot of violins started playing. Abe wanted to plug his ears. No music! The music stopped. Gemini's blue lips pursed into a pout. You're getting on his nerves. Olive said to Gemini. Not everyone likes romantic stuff as much as you do. Olive flitted across the glass screen to get closer to Abe. Her green glow made Abe blink. I think what you need is a nice long soak, Olive said. Abe thought about the roof's hot tub. If only. Your tub is jetted, Rose said, as if she'd read his mind. The Bobbiedots couldn't read his thoughts. Could they?
Maybe
Abe,
they could. I don't know.
Abe hadn't noticed that his tub was jetted. He barely glanced at it. He'd only used the walk-in shower. But a jetted tub bath was a good substitute for a soak in a hot tub. That sounds good, Abe said. I'll get it going, Olive said. Abe heard the sound of water running in the bathroom. Thanks. He headed toward the bedroom. The Bobbiedots followed Abe, moving from screen to screen. In the bedroom, they clustered on the screen next to the bathroom door. Abe looked at the hovering Bobbiedots. Some privacy, please. This means lunch will be late, doesn't it? Rose asked, only a hint of a whine in her voice. Just a little, Abe said. I guess I'll survive, Rose said. Gemini and Olive sighed. All three Bobbiedots disappeared. A few minutes later, Abe was soaking up to his shoulders. Still not interested in being alone with his thoughts, Abe had brought a paperback mystery novel into the tub with him. I never understood reading a book while you're taking a bath, because how do you keep the
Yeah.
pages from getting wet? Because, like,
I don't know. It's like a popular thing people do, like having wine or cheese by the tub as you're like reading a book, and I don't understand why that's like a popular thing.
he stretched out and let the water beat the tension out of his sore muscles while he lost himself in the fictional detective's investigation. He was so caught up in the whole whodunit that he didn't notice the water was getting hotter until sweat dripped off his nose and landed on the page he was reading. He frowned and put his hand in the water. It definitely felt hotter. Did it have a thermostat? Would you sweat first before you realized the water was getting warmer?
Like,
I feel like you would just like feel it, your whole body getting warmer
yeah,
before you would sweat.
yeah, and like I typically like my bath water like super hot. So like
Same.
I don't know because like I've been in hot tubs. I love going in hot tubs and like it usually takes me a while to like get out of there, but by the time I am my face is red and like the thing about like hot water is that I don't think that you really sweat.
Hmm.
Do
I mean, you
you?
can sweat from steam, but he's like in the tub, so he would feel it
Yeah,
literally across his body first.
yeah, he would feel it like across his body like a boiled lobster.
Rose, Abe said, could you please turn down the temperature of the water? Rose popped up on the nearest glass panel. Oh, good. Are you getting out soon? The food is. I'll be a bit longer, I think. I just need the temperature lowered. Rose sniffed, nodded, and disappeared. Abe settled back, but then he squirmed. The water got even hotter. I said down, not up, he said. Rose did not appear, and the water got hotter. Too hot. Way too hot. Wincing in pain, Abe scrambled out of the tub. He barely got out of the water before it began to boil. Feeling like his
They
skin.
just they're just mad that they can't see your peen. Like that's what I feel is going on right now. But
Feeling like his skin was on fire, Abe flopped onto the plush gray bath mat next to the tub. He stared in horror at his bright red lower body. As he stared, his feet swelled. Beyond Abe's feet, the water in the tub bubbled violently. The water's agitation was far beyond any that the jets could create. The water in the tub was a full rolling boil. Abe quickly sprang up and reached into the shower enclosure, turning on the cold water, and testing to be sure it was cold. He jumped under the frigid spray. He shrieked at the shock of the cold, and he bellowed, Rose! Rose appeared on the shower's glass enclosure. What's the matter? Why are you in the shower? The water in the tub started boiling, Abe hissed through his clenched teeth, covering himself with a towel. Olive popped up next to Rose. She leaned forward. Her green eyes were big behind her glasses as she studied Abe's skin. It appears you have a superficial dermal burn. Topical application of aloe vera or an antibiotic ointment is recommended. Don't stay under the cold water for too long. It could bring on shock. Rose fluttered her hands. Oh dear, your poor freckles are even pinker than my pigtails. There's aloe vera in the gel in the medicine cabinet. Abe turned off the shower and got out, doing his best to ignore his skin's screaming nerve endings. Across the medicine cabinet, sure enough, a large bottle of aloe vera sat on the top shelf. He grabbed it and began slathering it all over his legs and feet and lower torso. As he did, he heard the continued burble and pop of the boiling bath water. Turn that off and empty the tub, Abe yelled at Rose. Jets immediately quieted. The water started to drain. You don't have to yell at me. Rose wiped one of her big pink eyes. I need fudge. Bitch, you made the water boil. Of course he'd be mad.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I don't I feel like they it's weird because they say that they have emotions too, you know, but I feel like they don't understand human emotions
Hmm.
because that's been like a consistent thing so far.
Mm-mm. You don't have to yell at me. Rose wiped one of her big pink eyes. I need fudge, she said in a small voice. She disappeared. Abe immediately felt like a jerk. It wasn't Rose's fault the water boiled, right? I'm sorry, he called out. Oh, don't worry about her, Gemini said. She's so sensitive. Abe concentrated on rubbing in the aloe vera. The pain started to abate. He managed to pull on his robe, shuffle to his bed, and lie down. He stared at the ceiling, but he didn't see it. All he could see was the image of the boiling water in his tub. Rose! Abe called out. I'm sorry I yelled. Rose popped into view in the panel by the bed. She was eating chocolate fudge. It's okay, she said thickly. No, Abe said. It's not. You're very sweet and I appreciate everything you do. I was just in pain and I was panicked and I took it out on you. Rose nodded. She licked the chocolate off her fingers. I understand. Abe closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes, Rose had a new piece of fudge in her hands. Can you tell me why the water boiled? Abe asked. Rose quirked her mouth. I'm really sorry. It was the Gen 1s. But I didn't see a Gen 1, Abe protested. He hadn't had his eyes closed in the tub. He'd been reading. He'd have noticed a robot came in. Olive appeared next to Rose. The Gen 1's cables occasionally get tangled with the power systems and plumbing lines in the apartment, Olive said. They interrupt the apartment's proper functioning. Abe frowned. No wonder the apartment was off limits. What can be done about it? Abe asked. All three Bobbiedots shrugged. Abe sighed. He pondered the notion of going up into the crawl space to see what he could do about the Gen 1s. He immediately shivered. The idea of facing damaged robots in a small dark space wasn't at all appealing. But he had to do something. It seems like what we need is a system update, Abe said. That might remove whatever is causing these glitches. Olive fiddled with her glasses. We aren't programmed for updates. Aren't programmed for updates, you say?
Hmm.
Yeah, like, even, like, minor software needs to have, like, software updates every now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like, have their systems resynced, like, and debugged.
Unless you're like a Game Boy Color, but you're not.
Yeah, exactly. They're a complex AI.
Yeah, unless it's like older, older tech that has like basic functionality, like a Mr. Game and Watch, but they're not.
Hmm. Gemini looked at Olive and Rose. All three Bobbiedots shook their heads. There aren't any updates available, Olive said. Abe felt a headache coming on. The pounding warred with his stinging skin. Then what can I do? Abe asked. Rose polished off her fudge. She looked at Gemini and Olive. How about we set up monitoring protocols to keep an eye on what the Gen 1s are doing? Gemini and Olive nodded. We can do that, Olive said. She pointed at Abe. And you can help by telling us in advance what you're going to do so we can make sure everything is functioning properly. Abe nodded. Sure. Yay, Rose said. Can we start cooking now? Abe groaned. In a bit. Let me just lie here for a while. Oh, Rose said. Okay. Abe closed his eyes, trying to ignore his throbbing skin. Abe took comfort in knowing that the Bobbiedots would try to help protect him from the apartment's problems. But it wasn't a lot of comfort. The truth was that Abe was more than a little freaked out. What if he had fallen asleep in the tub? Could have been boiled alive. He opened his eyes and looked around the room. Even the greener grass has weeds, he whispered.
I
Hmm? What?
I think that I was just saying that, like, even if he did fall asleep, he would wake up because of the boiling heat in the tub
Mm-hmm.
and get out. Probably with, like, more advanced burns, but it takes a long time for a human to, like, boil alive, and
I
they need
mean,
to be able to, like, not get out.
I used to watch this show called A Thousand Ways to Die. And one of the ways to die
Mhm,
that was featured, it was these are all like true story events that they show. And there's this one
mhm,
narcoleptic who always fell asleep on the job, and he was like at
mhm.
it was some kind of factory that involved like putting things into a furnace and like setting them on fire to like cast them. And one of them was a
Mhm.
chair, and he set it up to be put into the machine. And then he sat in the chair and fell asleep.
Oh,
And that
no.
yeah, he died asleep in the furnace, and he was still slumped over asleep after being burned and basically fused with the chair. Like, he didn't show any signs of having moved.
Well, hopefully he like didn't feel that if he just went in his sleep like that. But geez,
Hopefully, yeah.
because I think narcoleptic sleep is like different from regular sleep.
Yeah.
Like I doubt he felt anything.
Yeah. Even the greener grass has weeds, he whispered. His mom was right. Speaking of his mom, Abe sat up and reached for his laptop. He opened his email. He stretched his fingers over the keyboard and typed, "Hi, Mom." Then he stopped. What was he going to tell her about his day? He wasn't sure he was going to tell her about what had just happened. "Hey, Mom, I nearly had my hand chewed off by a garbage disposal and I was almost boiled alive." Didn't seem like a good idea. Abe thought for several minutes. Finally, he started typing. "Tonight was spaghetti night at the care center, right? I know you love spaghetti like I do. Tonight was bath night too, I think. I hope you had a nice, relaxing bath. I had a good hot bath tonight, Mom. When I got out, the Bobbiedots gave me something nice for my skin. They're really taking care of me." He rolled his eyes at the omissions in his story, but he didn't lie. Abe ended his email and looked around his bedroom. He sighed. No matter what he told, or didn't tell, his mom, he had to admit to himself that the apartment that had felt like a sanctuary no longer felt safe. Couldn't help but wonder what was going to happen next. Star, star, star. Abe was teaching Preston, "Hey, this is the part with sun and moon, or moon, basically."
Right? Is Preston the same guy that he showed DJ Music Man to?
Let me scroll back. I'm pretty sure it was the one that almost got grabbed by DJ when they were just taking a piss.
Yeah, yeah. DJ watches you pee. That's so funny.
Yep, it is the same kid.
Okay, same kid.
Preston, you're about to get mooned. Abe was teaching Preston how to fix a generator in the Pizzaplex daycare. Or at least, that was what he was supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, Abe was so distracted that Preston was learning all the wrong ways to fix the generator. "Why are there generators in the play structures?" Preston asked. Abe looked up from the generator he was kneeling in front of. Huh? The area around them was shrouded in darkness. Only their flashlights illuminated the generator. "I mean, it just seems like a weird place to put the generator. Here, where the kids are playing?" Preston said. "Yeah, it is a really weird place to put the generators. That's why we still refuse to believe that they would be put there when the daycare was open and not after the fact when Moon was going crazy."
Yeah, I know. Like this inclusion of the butts is weird. Like in attempt to try and explain it, they just raise further questions because it doesn't make sense for them to be there
Abe shrugged.
when the daycare is open.
Mm-hmm. Abe shrugged. He gestured at the chaotic and colorful play area around them. "Does anything about this make sense?" Preston shook his head, but didn't say anything. Hillier thought criticizing his new workplace was a bad idea. Filled with screaming kids, the daycare was a carnival-like space filled with climbing structures, caves, rope bridges, ball pits, slides, and all manner of contraptions for kids to explore. That in itself wasn't so odd. What Abe thought was strange was that the entire daycare was overseen by an animatronic attendant with a dual personality. Sort of a not kid-friendly Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. In its happy incarnation, the attendant was the sun. That character had a somewhat deformed, round, grinning face surrounded by yellow triangles clearly intended to mimic the rays of the sun. The sun wore billowy red and yellow striped pants and was clown-like in his appearance and demeanor, but he had a dark side called the moon. The dark side was literal. If the lights went out in the daycare, the sun morphed into a leering moon-faced clown. Wearing dark blue billowy pants dotted with yellow stars, the moon would stalk around the daycare, admonishing the children. Why are they putting spaces between daycare when daycare is one word?
Daycare is one word. It's weird.
Maybe their editor didn't know. Or whatever.
Maybe. I just find it weird that Bobbiedots goes back and forth between just describing the Pizzaplex textbook how it is and going back to like the Bobbiedots in the apartments. Just kind of like, hey, remember, this is a FNaF story. It's like not that I don't appreciate the Pizzaplex not being here. It's just weird.
Yeah. The moon would stalk around the daycare, admonishing the children. You've been very naughty. Abe handed Preston a wrench and pointed out a connection. Tighten that. Preston obeyed. As he did, he glanced around at the darkness that surrounded them. After the daycare... See, again, there's a space. After the daycare was completed, Abe said, the designers realized that there was a flaw in the lighting plan. The lights kept shorting out. It wasn't dangerous or anything, not a fire hazard, just a darkness issue. The easiest and cheapest fix was to install backup generators. See, if all the lights are shorting out, and it's just like, how is it when this happens in game, it's really being switched into nighttime mode because there are still a bunch of lights on in the forms of starlights and the TV screens and the computers. So this explanation makes no sense.
Also, there's a circuit breaker in Sun and Moon's room with a lot of hidden switches in there. Like, it's a huge entire circuit breaker. So even if like there was frequent power outages in here, that thing could probably be connected to the generators and you could switch the lights back on manually if you went through the daycare's room.
And the generators are clearly connected to the floodlights, not anything else.
Mm-hmm. Also, usually places that have backup generators like schools and hospitals, you don't need to turn on the generators themselves. The generators automatically flick on and they're connected to the lights.
Unless they run out of gas.
Right.
Oh, no, wait, the generators are connected to the floor, but where? We have no idea what in the floor they connect to. Maybe to the door to keep it shut.
They don't connect to plugs in the floor. I just realized that. They just kind of like go into the floor.
Yeah.
But I think that's just limitations of the game rather than actual what it is.
Still hate this explanation. They decided on 5 of them to be sure the area got full coverage. By then, all the installations were in place, and the climbing structures were the only locations that could conceal the generators. Preston grunted and mumbled. Doesn't seem very safe, 'cause it ain't! Neither does an animatronic attendant that turns mean when lights go out, Abe said. Yeah, what's up with that, anyway? Preston asked. He again checked the darkness that pressed in on them. Abe sighed. The Sun robot was an old stage animatronic. Part of its theatrics shtick was to turn evil when the stage lights went off. When it was reprogrammed to be the daycare attendant, the performance functions were taken out, but the darkness trigger couldn't be removed. That, combined with the occasional blackouts in the daycare, created the moon side of the attendant, which results in several undesirable behaviors. Abe shook his head. Apparently they had meetings about what to do, and they decided that fixing Sun was more trouble than it was worth. It's cheaper to just make sure the lights stay on. Preston finished with the connection. What about those wires? He pointed. Abe groaned. Geez, sorry, we needed to reroute those before we tightened that connection. How do you tighten? You have to undo that, what you just did. Preston shrugged. Okay. Sorry, Abe said again. I'm a little distracted today. Right as Abe spoke, the moon's glowing eyes cut through the darkness. They peered into the climbing structure. You've been a naughty boy, he said. You don't know the half of it, Abe thought. Abe had been naughty for sure when he'd inserted himself into the off-limits apartment. Now, he was paying the price. When Abe had first checked out his apartment and found the hot sauce, he'd figured he could handle any issues the apartment had. When he'd heard the sounds in the night and then found out they were caused by malfunctioning robots, he was spooked. But he figured he could handle that situation too. His job, after all, included dealing with animatronic breakdowns. When his fingers had been nearly mangled by the garbage disposal, he'd been rattled, but he decided no harm, no foul. The boiling bath water was another story. Abe was still sore this morning, despite the yellow. He couldn't downplay the boiling water. He couldn't delude himself anymore. Abe was in danger. Serious danger. But what could he do? Any reasonable person...
Moon is just like outside the play structure looking at you.
He's just staring at him.
Yeah. It's funny because he's like, man, I'm in so much danger right now. And it's just like looking at him
Yeah, like Moon's not even
hello?
the danger he's concerned about. He's like,
I would be
it's just Moon,
surprised.
it's just Moon. That's fine.
I would be surprised. Like, I know the FNaF butts will never acknowledge like fanon because like the robots are supposed to be spooky and like they're horror filled. Like they don't have personalities outside of like their corporate mandated personalities. But like, it would be so funny if Moon was like looking at him and he's like, "You have third-degree burns on your legs. Are you okay?"
Yes, he should. Honestly, he should be doing that because it was shown as a feature of the animatronics to be able to identify injuries when Freddy was able to identify that Gregory had a bleeding cut.
Yeah, well, according to Freddy, like you are broken. That they changed the dialogue too,
Yeah,
so
originally it was
Moon
that
would
he was
probably say the
bleeding, but
same thing.
still.
Yeah, yeah. So Moon should be able to do that then. Either that or Moon's brain is like so fucked up. He's just like naughty boys, bad children get punished like 100% all the time, which seems to be what this book is hinting at, and I'm not sure if I like that.
Me neither, honestly.
Have have you heard the new theory that I kind of hate, but it's out there now?
What?
That the sun and the moon, they have more connections hinted at towards William Afton than the other animatronics. Like going through Balloon Boy World, you follow a purple trail, you find a clips, it says nighty night. There's star betting in Afton's boss fight room. Moon apparently knocks out Freddy to bring to Vanny.
You mean the shit that
And
we've
Moon
already
has an unused.
noticed?
Yeah, all the shit that we've already noticed. But like the thing about it all is that people think that the sun and the moon might just be another Afton puppet, much like another Afton suit.
Yeah, no.
Like he has just full control over them.
Yeah, no. No way. Sun would not be freaking out the way he was or crying if he was.
Right, right. But Moon does have a similar come hither motion and lures kids away in the same way that Glitch Trap does. So there's food for thought. It's like almost the same animation.
Yeah, but there's only so many ways that you can say, hey, come here, come here.
I guess so. I guess so. It's just the thing that's out there now, and I kind of don't like it.
Any reasonable person would have moved out of the apartment. He knew that. Having a cushy place to live wasn't worth serious injury or even death. Having a cushy place wasn't the issue. The issue was having a place. Period. If Abe moved out of the apartment, where would he go? Even with the raise that came with his promotion, he didn't have enough money saved up to rent an apartment. Now that he was sleeping in a real bed again and eating delicious food, he couldn't even imagine going back to being homeless and living off discarded pizza. No, he really didn't have an option. However dangerous this place might be, he had to stay there for now. All he had to figure out was
Wait a minute. A thought just occurred to me.
Hmm?
A thought just occurred to me. How is he getting past reception and going into his apartment every single day?
Maybe well, when he went to the inwards, there was like a long hallway section before the reception desk, and that's probably where the elevators are. Or the stairs. Maybe he just
Oh,
takes
okay.
this.
So he just like, yeah, he probably just avoids the reception desk altogether, but I'm surprised that she hasn't seen him walking around there,
He doesn't leave his apartment unless he's assured no one's there to see him.
I guess.
No, he really didn't have an option. However dangerous his place might be, he had to stay there for now. All he had to figure out was how to survive it. He'd been chewing on that problem throughout the morning, and all he could think to do was stay alert and be prepared. That wasn't a very
Mhm.
satisfying solution. Preston finished undoing the connection and looked at the moon warily. How do I reroute the wiring? He asked Abe. Abe leaned in and showed Preston a little electrical trick he taught himself when he first took the Pizzaplex job. Sort of a bypass of the grounding wire. Abe explained. See? The generator kicked in. The lights around them came on. Preston noticeably relaxed as the moon retreated. That's pretty cool, Preston said. In spite of his dark thoughts, Abe smiled. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Abe might have been naughty, but he was capable. Abe's dark mood brightened. He was totally helpless. He had tech knowledge. Whatever the apartment threw at him, he had the smarts to handle it. With the Bobbiedots helping him, he'd be okay. Or at least he'd hope he'd be.
I like that my headcanon and lo-fi of Moon scampering away like a spider every time the lights hit him is true.
Like,
He just like goes back into the darkness like a cockroach.
except in this case, there's no place for him to go into darkness to. He just turns back into sun. Actually,
I
that's something I
guess.
noticed. In the original version that was a leaked, the original version said he retreated and shifted back to moon. He shifted back into sun. And this it just says the moon retreated.
Mhm. Yeah, the moon retreated, so maybe he's hiding somewhere.
But how could he hide if he's switching to sun?
Well, like when one generator turns on, it doesn't mean all the lights turn on.
It said all the lights turned on.
All the lights turn on?
The
Oh,
lights
well,
around
maybe
him
he
too.
retreated and he changed back into sun and they just didn't see it.
Hmm. Star, star, star. Abe made it through the rest of his week without incident, and he was more than a little relieved when Saturday rolled around. Roden had called that morning asking if Abe wanted to hang out, but Abe said he was busy. The day was dark and rainy, a perfect day to stay in and read. Maybe sip some tea. How much trouble could he get into with a book and a cup of tea? After grabbing his novel, Abe wandered into the kitchen. The Bobbiedots, chatty as usual, followed him. I don't like rain, Mom said. It causes sad. She flickered her tails. You mean it makes you sad? Abe asked. No, I mean it causes sad. Seasonal affective disorder. The lack of natural light dampens the mood. Gemini's blue-lipped mouth opened wide as she laughed. Dampens. That's a good one. Rose giggled. I get it. Rain. Dampens. She clapped her pink-tipped hands and squealed. Oh, I know what you should do, Abe. You should bake cookies. Rainy days are great for baking. What do you care if he bakes cookies? Gemini asked. You can't eat any of them. Rose stuck her tongue out at Gemini. You're mean. Cookies actually sound pretty good, Abe said. I'll make some tea to go with them. The oven's gonna explode or something. Yay! Rose clapped her hands. Abe smiled and headed to the kitchen. A stainless steel tea kettle sat on the gas stove. Abe picked it up, crossed the sink, and filled the kettle with water, and returned to the stove. He reached across the stove to set the kettle on the largest burner. The burner under his arm flared on, even though he was nowhere near the burner's knobs. Abe was wearing his long-sleeved hoodie, and his sleeve caught fire. Abe's reaction was instant. He whipped the hoodie off and smothered the flame against the countertop. The fire was out a couple seconds after it started. But still. Abe looked at his arm. The hair on his forearms were singed black, and his skin was pinkish. Not as pink as his legs had been after the tub incident, but pink. Run water over it, Rose commanded. The sink faucet came on. Abe stuck his arm under the flow of cool water. So much for a nice, safe tea party, Abe said. There's more aloe vera in the cabinet to your left, Rose said. In here? Abe asked. I figured after the tub thing you'd want it handy, just in case. Yeah, that's not sus. Rose clasped her hands and looked at Abe with earnest concern. Thanks. Abe reached for the aloe vera and spread it over his arm. Abe looked at the hovering Bobbiedots. I thought you were going to monitor things to stop these sorts of incidents. I did my part. I told you I was going to make tea. The Bobby's dots exchanged chastised looks. We're really sorry, Gemini said. We feel awful, Rose said. It's just that preventing problems isn't as easy as it sounds, Olive said. It's the Gen 1s, Gemini said. They have access to our displays.
Hmm.
Said
Oh.
it is a case of the Generation 1s having hijacked the Gen 2s, and it's really the Gen 1s being like puppets.
Okay, that's what you were trying to say earlier. I didn't really understand.
Like, the Gen 1s are pretending to be the Gen 2s. Like, they gained access
Mhm.
to their screen displays,
Yeah,
and they just confirmed it.
yeah.
Yeah, Rose said, they can mess with our programming and make things turn on when they shouldn't. Abe stared at the three Bobbiedots. Really? Damaged robots could get into holographic systems? Great, Abe muttered. That's just great. But we'll keep trying, Rose said eagerly. Yes, Gemini agreed. We won't stop. We'll do everything we can, Olive said. Thanks, Abe said. Didn't say out loud that he no longer had a lot of faith in the Bobbiedots' efforts. Star, star, star. 2 blessedly uneventful days passed. Abe spent most of the next day, Sunday, in bed. His feet hurt. His skin was still sore. His mood was low. He read all day, and to Rose's chagrin, he barely ate. Monday, he went to work and was so busy that he didn't have time to think about the apartment. For a brief interval, his life felt normal, until he went home at the end of the day. Abe had worked 2 hours late, and the sun was down before he got home. When he opened his door, he immediately requested, Lights, please. The lights came on. Abe tried again. Olive, can you turn on the lights? Nothing. Abe sighed. Well, he wasn't so spoiled that he couldn't manage to switch on his own lights. Abe shut his door and reached for the light switch. As soon as Abe's fingers touched the switch, electricity surged. Abe was thrown back away from the wall. He hit the sofa and tumbled head over heels onto the floor. How strong was that electric shock? His forehead hit the coffee table as he went. Abe lay on the floor moaning. His fingers felt like they were being stabbed by a million tiny needles. His head pounded and buzzed. He was nauseous. Lying on his back, Abe carefully moved his arms and legs. Okay. He seemed to be okay, besides the whack on the head and the painful tingle.
Like, if that electric shock was so powerful it threw him backward, that would be like the level of an electric shock you would receive from like a malfunctioning down wire on a telephone pole.
Mm-hmm. He felt like himself and his body seemed to be working properly. Rose, Abe called out. The Bobbiedots appeared on the glass panel above Abe. What just happened? Abe asked. I didn't know you were interested in gymnastics, Gemini said. I can add that to your entertainment preferences if you'd like. Abe took a deep breath. Olive, what happened with the lights? Olive fiddled with her glasses. I'm so sorry. It was my Gen 1 counterpart. She hijacked my control of the lights. I heard your command, but I couldn't respond. Okay, Abe said, even though it wasn't okay at all. He sat up. What are we going to do about this? Olive pressed her green lips together. It looked like she was concentrating deeply. After a couple seconds, she nodded. There. I rerouted the light controls so she can't get to them again. Great, Abe said. He managed to get to his feet. I'm going to lie down for a bit. I'll have dinner later. Not too late, I hope, Rose said. Star, star, star. Abe didn't feel like eating a full dinner, so he ignored Rose's nutritional lecture and made himself a tuna sandwich. His mom had made him a lot of tuna sandwiches when he was a kid. He'd missed this comfort food when he was living solely on pizza. Halfway through his sandwich, Abe looked at the Bobbiedots. We need to have a household meeting. Meetings are good, Olive said. It's a useful way to discuss strategies and make plans. I'm glad you approve, Abe said. We can't have a meeting with just a sandwich, can we? Rose protested. Can we have snacks too? Knock yourself out, Abe said. Rose frowned and cocked her head. That means go for it, Abe explained. Oh, goody, let's have popcorn, Rose said. That's the perfect snack for you, Gemini said to Rose. It's as full of air as you are. Rose ignored the jib. She smiled in delight at the bowl of popcorn that suddenly appeared before her. Okay, Abe said. Here's the deal. I think I need to take charge of what's going on here. He leaned forward and made sure the three Bobbiedots were paying attention. They were. Even Rose, who ate her popcorn with her gaze fixed firmly on Abe. I'd like to talk to the Gen 1s directly, Abe said. Maybe I can reason with them. They're too messed up to understand, Gemini said. Loony toony, Rose said. Well, maybe if I can get to them, I can reprogram them. Abe said. The Bobbiedots shook their head in unison. Their bright ponytails flapped around them. You can't get into their crawl space, Olive said. It's locked. Oh. I'm pretty sure it's not. If something like a cable came out of it. I could cut through the trapdoor, Abe said. It has a steel plate above it, Olive said. Abe sighed. Okay, well, why do the Gen 1s want to hurt me anyway? What did I do to them? I don't think they mean to hurt you, Gemini said. It's just that they're inept. Olive shook her head. I think it's possible they may be acting with malice. Gen 1s are close enough to human form that it's reasonable to assume they're envious of you. Envious? Abe said. Envy is the personal pain that results when the being desires the advantages of someone else, Olive said. Oh, so this is just a typical robot jealous of human story. I know what envy is, but envy requires a level of self-awareness that I didn't think animatronics have. The Gen 1s are pretty advanced, Gemini said. Not as advanced as us, Olive said. Obviously, Rose said. I'd be glad to research the very
Wait a minute. That's a lie. Envy requires a self-awareness that I didn't think animatronics had. What about Monty? What's the deal with Monty then? Because his entire shtick in like Gator Golf, he wants to be like the star of the show or whatever. At least that's what it's advertised in his Gator Golf minigame. And it's implied he tore apart Bonnie, but he could be framed. I don't know.
So he does have the advancements to be that kind of self-aware. This dude's just not.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does have the self-awareness to be envious because, like it's not that Monty in his dialogue says it specifically, but like that's what they are hinting to in the game.
Yeah.
That plus, the robots are envious and they can cry.
Yeah. Maybe he just thinks all the personality is programmed and stuff, and like it's just like acting. But maybe he doesn't know it's real.
Maybe. It's also hinted at that Abe doesn't really like the animatronics, and Roxy is his least favorite. So.
Yeah. I'd be glad to research the varying manifestations of envy if you'd like, Olive said. Abe shook his head. I think the Gen 1s think you're Landon, Rose said. Abe looked at her. What makes you say that? Rose shrugged. I don't know. Just popped into my mind. Why would the Gen 1s want to hurt Landon? Abe asked. Landon didn't have freckles, Gemini said. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, well, that explains it.
Exactly.
Abe said. He chuckled. He shook his head, amazed that he was actually having fun, even in the midst of his serious circumstances. The Bobbiedots were a hoot, and he enjoyed them. At least he wasn't in this dire situation alone. Abe reached for the last of his sandwich. As he did, his stomach roiled. A wave of cramping gripped his intestines. Whoa, he breathed. Pressed a hand to his back. The fish was spoiled, wasn't it?
Laxatives in his sandwich?
Maybe. Let's see what happened.
Or
You're still hungry, right? Rose said. Are you sure you don't want to heat up enchiladas? Abe's stomach heaved at the very thought of enchiladas. He shook his head. The cramping was replaced by a swell of nausea. Felt like the tuna sandwich was trying to come back up. Abe breathed slowly, but the nausea didn't abate. It got worse. Abe shot out of his chair. I'm gonna be sick. The Bobbiedots followed Abe from glass panel to glass panel as he dashed toward the bathroom. They all chattered at the same time. Nausea can be caused by a number of conditions, Olive said. Bacteria and viruses are common causes, but others include vertigo, ear infections, intestinal blockages, liver failures, meningitis, and migraines. If you don't feel good, how about some music? Gemini said over the top of Olive's laundry list of ailments. Piano, maybe? Or some nice classical strings? Or would you rather have something more upbeat to distract you? What sounded like tribal drums began playing from the speakers. Gemini, your music taste sucks. No, wait. You know what would have made this funnier? If it was casual bongos.
Casual bongos.
It probably is casual bongos. These casual bongos have turned sour!
Abe couldn't open his mouth to protest. Are you going to eat the rest of your sandwich? Rose asked while Olive and Gemini tried to be helpful. Abe reached the bathroom just in time. He dropped to the floor in front of the toilet and finally ejected his tuna sandwich. The stink of a partly digested tuna and accompanying bile triggered another wave of vomit. Abe's stomach heaved and his body gave up the last of the sandwich. The water he drank with the sandwich and more yellowish bile. A couple of dry heaves followed, and finally, Abe collapsed on the bathroom floor. The toilet flushed. Thanks, Rose, he managed. Poor baby, Rose said. You lost your sandwich. I think you should make another one. Abe's stomach lurched at the very thought. He groaned. Oh, shut up, you dolt, Olive said to Rose. He doesn't need more food. He needs to hydrate. Humans require water to support their biological functions. Water helps humans get rid of toxins. The sink faucet came on. Abe didn't move. Peppermint can soothe the stomach, Olive said. Oh, mints, Rose said. I like the ones covered in chocolates. I'm not talking about candy, Olive said. Just peppermint capsules or essential oils. I don't think the drums are helping, Gemini said. Let's try jazz. That might perk you up. The drums gave way to sounds of trumpets and saxophones. Abe preferred the drums. How about silence? Abe said. Gemini emitted an exasperated huff. Fine. The music stopped. You know, maybe if she just played some lo-fi beats instead. No one complains
Yeah,
about lo-fi
maybe.
beats. Abe managed to get to
Either
his...
that or just do what the teachers do at the school I work at, when it's like quiet hour and they're trying to settle the kids back down after recess. They just turn on like ocean sounds or uh
The ambient
lo-fi
noises.
beats of ambient noises of like birds chirping and stuff like that.
Gemini emitted an exasperated huff. Fine. The music stopped. Abe managed to get to his feet. He stepped to the sink and put his hands in the still running water. He splashed the water on his face and took a few sips of it. It didn't refresh him as much as he hoped it would. He turned off the faucet and left the bathroom. The Bobbiedots followed him. Gemini was sulking. Olive and Rose were still arguing. Could you please give me a few minutes alone? Abe asked. Gemini let out a harumph before she disappeared, storming off on the screen. Rose and Olive just went dark. Abe lay down in his bed and pulled his comforter up around him. He felt chilled and clammy at the same time. Just a touch of stomach flu, he told himself. An image of the tuna sandwich flashed through his mind, and his stomach cramped again. Pressed his stomach. Abe remembered getting food poisoning after eating some bad chicken a couple years before. What he felt now was similar to what he felt then. No, this wasn't the flu. Something had made him sick. You think? The tuna or
No,
something else? Abe sat up. What if he'd been poisoned? Could the Gen ones have been could the Gen ones have put something in his food? Did the Gen ones even exist? If they didn't, and they didn't poison Abe's food, who did? What if the Bobbiedots weren't being as helpful as they pretended to be? Nausea gripped Abe again. He jumped up and ran for the bathroom. Star, star, star. A week later, Abe sat at the desk in his small home office, trying to write an email to his mom. It wasn't going well. Writing around what was really going on was getting harder and harder. He sure couldn't tell her the truth. How's my apartment tried to kill me? He thought. Let me count the ways. His shower had scalded him a few days before. A cord running to his bedside lamp had nearly strangled him. He'd been tripped by things left out and almost electrocuted multiple times. He started moving through his apartment in darkness because he was afraid to touch light switches when the Bobbiedots didn't turn on the lights. The tuna sandwich incident had just been the first in the string of similar experiences. He was so sure his food was being poisoned that 3 nights before he'd started bringing home takeout for dinner, and he'd only ate sealed packaged foods for breakfast, against Olive's nutritional advice. Eve started typing. Because I'm making more money now, I've been treating myself to takeout food. Remember how getting Chinese food in those cartons was always such a treat when I was little? Abe stopped and looked at the back of his hands. His skin was tender from the scalding. His head and his muscles and his joints ached. His stomach was skittish. He was a wreck. Moaning, he sat back in his chair and looked around. He loved having an office in the apartment, and The one he now had in the Pizzaplex was great too. Abe's new position had come with a large desk and a semi-private cubicle. He had a new plush desk chair that didn't squeak, and he had a better view of the Fazplex tower where he now lived. This was everything he had been wanting. He started typing again. Mom, I can't believe I'm living the dream that I had for so long. I have a nice desk now, with a view of my apartment building. I can't believe I actually live in the Fazplex tower. Doesn't seem real. Abe stopped typing. He couldn't tell his mom what he was really thinking. Truth was that his ideal life had turned into a nightmare. But what could he do about it? Abe couldn't move out of the apartment. He had nowhere to go. Couldn't ask for help because he wasn't supposed to be in the apartment in the first place. Abe's only source of help was the Bobbiedots. The Bobbiedots continued to be fun and attentive, and he appreciated them. Abe typed another few words. The Bobbiedots are such a big help. He stopped. The Bobbiedots were trying to help them, weren't they? The problem was that Abe was doubting his Bobbiedots more and more. He wasn't so sure they were on his side. Thinking back over everything that happened, Abe realized that he'd done some of the Gen 1s. For all he knew, the Bobbiedots had made them up. The Bobbiedots were just so evasive. Abe didn't like the way they tried to distract him from certain questions. Bobbiedots also didn't seem to tolerate criticism very well. They got their feelings hurt way too easily. What if they were trying to punish him for his so-called lack of appreciation? The Bobbiedots were the ones causing all the problems. Abe was in a world of hurt. He couldn't move out. Without the Bobbiedots on his side, he didn't have any help to deal with the dangers. He was stuck and alone. Terrified. How much more could he take? Abe looked back at his email. I need to get back to work, Mom. Abe typed. I have some planning to do. Love you. Abe. Abe hit send and closed his laptop. He took a deep breath. He wasn't lying about the planning. He had to find a way to get to the bottom of Bobbiedots' malfunctions and stop them. The accidents were getting worse and worse. He might not survive the next one. Abe needed to catch the Bobbiedots in their lie and figure out a way to trap them before they killed him. Exhaling, Abe leaned back in his chair again and closed his eyes. He willed his mind to come up with a way to catch his Bobbiedots in the act of sabotage. How could he outsmart them? Because his eyes were closed, Abe didn't notice the trailing end of a cable flit past the office doorway. He also didn't see the cable slither upward to disappear through the partly open trapdoor. He did, however, hear the click of the door closing. Abe's eyes shot open.
Wait, is this in his office?
Hmm?
Is this in his office?
Remember how it was described that there's only like half walls, and all the apartment sections are, well, they are sectioned off by half walls and another half wall with screens. They aren't. It's all technically one room, except for the bedroom and the bathroom. Those are the only two rooms that are sectioned off from the rest of the house, apartment, whatever.
Okay.
Abe's eyes shot open. He leapt out of his chair and hurried into the kitchen and looked up at the trapdoor. How'd you just imagine the sound? Abe looked around at the darkened Bobbidot screens. He rubbed away the goosebumps that suddenly covered his arms. And that's the end of part 1.
At the end of part 1, the end.